I know this was shocking news to you, Cole, and to all the Tolos who were listening yesterday, but I revealed to you on these airwaves that Andy Dalton was not the magic bullet that was going to fix everything for the Carolina Panthers. Sorry to break the news to you. If you hadn't quite figured that out, maybe a couple of more weeks of losing would have revealed the truth to you, would have pulled the wool off of your eyes. But in this segment, Cole, I want to ask the question, and just for the sheer sake of conversation on a Tuesday afternoon in October. Who could be a magic bullet? Who could fix the Carolina Panthers right now in 2024? Active quarterbacks only. We're not going back and we're not pulling Troy Aikman. We're not doing that, okay? We're only pulling active quarterbacks in the NFL. No. I mean, I'm sure Michael Vick's probably still a fit dude, right? He can probably still run circles around all of us and everyone listening on the fan upstate, right? He would crush all of us in a flag football game. Is that too soon?
No, he would. He would. And by the way, a great question, but what a responsibility the answer to this question now bears, right? I mean, you're the one tasked with fixing the worst franchise in all of football.
You're in a tough spot. You walk in on day one, you're in a tough spot. We're going to get to that here in this very first segment of the show. Appreciate you, Tolos, Stephen Webb, who's already in the stream, already watching. You can watch us on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. Just search for The Fan Upstate. It's fun because you get to chop it up with other Tolos in there as well. We had some Tolo on Tolo violence in there yesterday. Some trash talking back
really
and forth.
Good, by the way.
We love that. We're going to be talking about revenue sharing and how it's coming to college football and the latest in the development therein. Robert Saleh has been fired by the Jets. Cole's all butthurt about the conversation around Aaron Rodgers and whether or not he was involved in the process of firing Robert Saleh. And, of course, we're going to get to our early upset pick leans at 420. So if you've got some games that you're considering, that you're looking at, that you maybe want us to chop it up and talk a little bit about, you can text them into the show at 71307. And we will go to Jack Veltry of Gamecock Central at 520 on the show today, talking all things South Carolina Gamecocks after that embarrassing performance Saturday against Ole Miss, leading into what could be another embarrassing performance this Saturday
Fingers
against
crossed.
Alabama.
Fingers
as
crossed.
they head to Tuscaloosa. But Cole, we all have in our minds who are the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, right? We all kind of go to the same places. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, guys like that. That's easy to say, right? Until you actually look at where they are this year through 5 games for most of these teams, 4 games for most of these teams. The list is weird looking, right? There's some that just don't make any sense. If you go strictly off of QBR, Cole, here are the current top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL through this season. Number 1, Josh Allen. No surprise. Good quarterback, right? Good. Number 2, Joe Burrow. He only won 1 game this year, but Joe Burrow is lighting it up. Number 3, Jaden Daniels. Shocker. Congratulations. The rookie. Go get yours, my friend. Put up those numbers. Number 4, Andy Dalton. That's a weird one. Number 4, Andy Dalton. He's played 3 games, played great in 1 game, mediocre in the second, and bad in the third. Number 5, Lamar Jackson. Number 6, Kyler Murray. Number 7, Brock Purdy. 8, C.J. Stroud. 9, Baker Mayfield. 10, Derek Carr. Did you notice whose name I left off of that list?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Here's some shockers for you. Jalen Hurts is sitting at number 13 in the NFL, middle of the pack. Sam Darnold, number 14. His team's 5-0.
Yeah.
His team's 5-0, and he's middle of the pack in the NFL. Number 15, Dak Prescott. No shockers there. And then number 16, dead in the middle of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes in QBR right now.
Yeah.
But undefeated on the season. So, I mean, QBR is not the end-all, be-all stat. But, I mean, it does show you, who has the better teams overall. If you're looking at Sam Darnold and Patrick Mahomes, you're seeing, here's 2 guys who are undefeated on the season who have kind of weak QBRs, but it's okay because you can hide their deficiencies around them with really good play of your running back, of your wide receivers, tight ends, etc.
So when you asked the question, because that's what you did, you asked the question, which quarterback could single-handedly save the Panthers? Number 1, that's a tough question to answer because
you got to define what it means.
You look at what Patrick Mahomes has done, and you mentioned Patrick Mahomes, who we all know is the best quarterback in the NFL. He's 16th in QBR. So number 1, to me, that goes to show when you're talking about winning football, it goes to show that it's more about roster management, roster building than it is all about the quarterback. Does the quarterback help? It absolutely does. However, what Kansas City continues to do, an example last night in a dominant performance against New Orleans, they're continuing to show that they have an incredibly talented roster. I don't know if there's one quarterback who you can just drop in. Now, I'll tell you this. I think to answer your question, I think there are guys out there that make this a much better situation, right? Answering the question of which quarterback out there can be the single-handed answer, single-handed fix, can be the flex tape, right? You like flex tape? You just seal it up with a flex tape and everything's fixed. I don't know that there's a guy that can be the flex tape to the Carolina Panthers, Diesel.
So not one.
Not one.
You don't have one
now, I'll
quarterback in the NFL that could. And again, we have to define what fixing the Carolina Panthers means.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying like get them to the playoffs, get them to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying who can turn this franchise around.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying
team around
completely.
Yeah, I mean, you got. I mean, fixing the team when you're this far broken actually doesn't take that much when you think about it.
There are definitely quarterbacks out there. Again, I'm not avoiding answering the question, but there are quarterbacks out there that you can plug in that make this franchise a lot better. I was just making sure that whoever I answered with wouldn't bear the responsibility of having to what you just said to get this team to the Super Bowl.
So
real quick, I don't think there's a single quarterback out there that could get this mess of a franchise to the Super Bowl. It would take a really good quarterback plus a lot of other good things, just like the Kansas City Chiefs have done building around Mahomes.
I'm going to go down the list here, starting with their 2023 season stats, because you got a full body of work or an almost full body of work for a lot of these guys, Cole. And I'm going to start with number 1, and we're going to go down to number 20, because let's be real. Anybody past number 20 is not going to fix the Carolina Panthers this year, right? Who could you plug right into this roster and say, this team is an instant winner? Again, not a playoff caliber team, not a deep run in the playoffs caliber team, just fixing the team, right? A guy that would come in and his skills would be so overwhelming at quarterback that it could hide the deficiencies of the offensive line, that it could hide the deficiencies of the wide receiver room, could take a lot of pressure off of the O-line in the run game. All of these things combined, who fixes the Carolina Panthers? And it's pretty easy at the top of this list, right? Once you go a little bit down the list, you're going to find it a little bit tougher to start answering who could do it and who could not. So let's start with the best quarterback in the game right now, Patrick Mahomes. Yes, Patrick Mahomes could easily come in and fix the Carolina Panthers.
And again, we're saying like what, 10 wins?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, just getting above 500 is really fixing the Carolina Panthers, right?
I don't know. Is it? I mean, again,
that's 9 wins. That's 9 wins.
Yeah. Okay. So let's call it 9 or 10 wins.
Yeah.
Of course, Patrick Mahomes would make this team competitive. I don't know, though, that he hides every deficiency. You know, when you start talking about war of attrition and not having guys on defense, yes, he will take a lot of that off of the team. Like, he'll take a lot of those blemishes off of the team, right? Off of the face. He'll take a lot of those scars off. However, there are still going to be a few, but no, there'd be none better, obviously, easy answer than Mahomes.
T Swizzle says, ain't been crap since they made Jerry sell it. SMH. Yeah, I guess it was too much, T Swizzle, to compliment the secretary's backside on Blue Jean Day.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's too much. Can't do that. Texter says Jaden Daniels will be the one that could get them at least 7 or 8 wins, but not a playoff team. JB, that's a fine answer. I like Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
I think he's a solid quarterback, and we've only seen him in a limited sample size to this point, so I'm not going to go Jaden Daniels yet, but you make a compelling case. Okay, let's go down the list here. Lamar Jackson, number 2. Could Lamar Jackson get traded to the Carolina Panthers and fix this team? 9-win team with Lamar.
It's a great question.
Same team, everybody else around him. Lamar's the only difference.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. Look, here's the problem. Lamar's really, really good. Lamar Diesel can extend plays, and he can make this team better. I'm not saying they wouldn't be better. Don't come at me and say you're an idiot. They would definitely be. Yes, they'd be better. Talking about 9-10 wins, though, being on the fringe of making a run, Diesel, I don't know that Lamar Jackson would have the tools necessary, because Lamar Jackson, what we've learned about him so far in the NFL is he's a very good quarterback, one of the best in the league, right? However, he cannot get it done unless he has the full stable behind him. He has not been able to do it. Derrick Henry, now on the Ravens, we'll see if they can get it done this postseason. I think they will, but he has not shown us that he can get over that mountaintop thus far in his career. So I'll say no on that.
See, I beg to differ on that one. Lamar Jackson, with his escapability and the fact that when plays break down, Lamar scrambles, and there's a lot of broken plays for the Carolina Panthers. I think Lamar Jackson by himself there would pick up a ton of yards.
He'd be running all right.
Would pick up a ton of yards in this offense. I mean, consider the fact he's been a 1,000-yard rusher twice in his career. I understand that was a couple of years ago, 2019, 2020. But he was around 800 yards in 21, 22, and 2023. So he's at 363 yards to this point, averaging 6.8 yards a carry. I think Lamar Jackson would be lethal as a Carolina Panther and be worth 9 wins for this team.
Well, let me say this about Lamar. He'd sell tickets. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
He'd sell tickets. He'd put butts in the seats. However, I'm just really, really big. Like I'm almost to the point where I'm done having the quarterback conversation. I'm really big on roster management. Kansas City, everybody talks about Mahomes, rightfully so. But if you watch that game last night, it's about their roster. Yeah. It's not all about Mahomes. Well, they have a really good team.
Anytime you have an elite level quarterback like that you don't ask to do everything all the time.
Yeah.
See, that's the difference between the Chiefs and the Ravens, as they're asking Lamar Jackson to be otherworldly all the time to be successful. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to be that.
No.
Patrick Mahomes can be an average quarterback and still win a whole lot of football games in Kansas City. So let's go down the list to keep going. Josh Allen. Could you plug Josh Allen into this roster and all of a sudden be a 9-win team?
No.
No?
I think Josh Allen is one of the league's worst at making bad decisions in terms of interceptions, what his numbers have shown over the years. I don't think that he single-handedly is enough. Is he a fantastic quarterback? Absolutely. But I just think that, again, back to my very original point, my list is small. There's going to be more than one. But look, I'm kind of getting to the point with Josh Allen where he's kind of in that same conversation as Lamar. Like, he's got to prove it. Other than him being the guy, he's got to do something to get them over the hump.
And Josh Allen's big and slow, right? He's not gonna scramble and pick up a ton of yards for you with his legs, and that's what they need. They need a quarterback with just insane escapability stats right now, right? To be able to cover up the deficiency of this bad offensive line that lets a lot of guys through and get sacks. CJ Stroud, this one's easy. No, CJ Stroud's not a 9-win quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. Even though he's much better than what you had.
He should be the quarterback.
He should be the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. He did bad on one test.
Yeah.
And they said, know what? No, we don't want CJ. We want this little hobbit out there playing quarterback for us.
We're talking about guys who not only are super talented in themselves, but can elevate those around them. Mm-hmm. I think CJ, my answer would be not yet. I think
not yet. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. There's a couple more. I still do have a couple of quarterbacks down my list, Cole, that I think would be worth 9 wins for the Carolina Panthers. This one's going to shock you a little bit when I say no. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow could not get 9 wins for the Carolina Panthers. Number one, he gets injured all the time. Number two, he gets sacked a lot. Clean pocket, Joe Burrow is insanely good.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have a clean pocket in Carolina. So he'd be running for his life. He would be down. He would be injured. No, it's not Joe Burrow.
So I'm going to go yes on Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow would. And the reason I say yes is Joe Burrow, the year he took Cincinnati to the Super Bowl, he had the worst offensive line in football. So I think that Joe Burrow would be able to make something. You hear the saying, make chicken salad, chicken poop. I think Joe Burrow would be able to make the situation better. He's only one of the few. I'm a big Joe Burrow guy. Despite the year he's had, Diesel, I'm still Team Burrow.
Michael in Simpsonville. This is funny. Michael in Simpsonville and another Tolo who didn't sign his text. Please help us out, guys. Please sign your texts. Michael in Simpsonville says, I was going to say Jesus, but you said active quarterbacks. I mean, it's not the same sport, but there's that movie Major League where he says, you trying to tell me Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?
Yeah, you had quarterback Jesus.
Jesus could throw a football over the mountains.
God.
That's for sure. Tyler B says Josh Dobbs. Our line
I said that last week
and he can scramble. Yeah. Josh Dobbs' name has been thrown around there, and I think Josh would be a fine quarterback, especially if you're setting up for the future when you're going to go find if you like his style of play.
Yeah,
where you can find a quarterback who start moving all your quarterbacks in that direction. Okay, let's keep it going here as we're getting close to the end of this break. Aaron Rodgers, no way. Aaron is far too emotional. Aaron would pout. Aaron would shut himself down. He would demand to be traded. Dak Prescott, I'm going to step out of the way and let you have this one.
So it's interesting with Dak. Dak's had some good talent in Dallas, right? Like, he's had CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, when he came into the league, he had Dez Bryant for 1 or 2 years, Diesel. I think Dak in Charlotte, I think he'd be really close. I don't know that he'd be like the 9-10 because he's been the 12-win quarterback in Dallas with a good team, right? So you take away some of those really good pieces like the good offensive line, good defense. I'm thinking he's probably a 7 to 9 win quarterback in Carolina.
All right, I'm going to go 8, 9, 10 down the list. You tell me which one you like the best at this point, okay? Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts.
So one more time.
Jordan Love,
okay.
Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts.
Jordan Love.
Yeah, I'm with
Jordan
you.
Love. I think so. I think he'd be, look, it'll never happen.
He's had to do more with less,
right?
Where he's been. So I like Jordan Love. And then Cole, that's the top 10 quarterbacks as of 2023 stats. Is there anybody off of that list that you think could come in and win 9 games for the Carolina Panthers? My wild card, and he was number 16 on the list last year, is Kirk Cousins.
Well,
Kirk Cousins showing it. He's looked real good in Atlanta, and Kirk Cousins has been that journeyman quarterback who's won everywhere he's gone. I understand it didn't work out for him last year in Minnesota. That's why they moved on from him. But that dude, there's some sort of Fitz magic in Kirk Cousins, and he can win you 9 football games. And I really do think Kirk Cousins could shock the world in Carolina.
You know, it's interesting with him. I'm not the biggest Kirk Cousins guy. Obviously, in Carolina Diesel, you wouldn't have Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Darnell Mooney. You know, really good players that he has in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. He also wouldn't have, in my opinion, a good coach, really good ownership in Atlanta like he does, or he wouldn't have that in Carolina like he does currently in Atlanta. I think you put like Kirk Cousins ? Maybe. I really do. Kirk Cousins, right? Like maybe he's the guy. However, I've said it 19 times this segment. Everyone has a conversation about quarterback. What's around them? We talked about it in April when we were at Dave & Buster's for the draft. How much situation matters. I'm telling you, man, I'm so big on situation. Of course, Kirk Cousins right now looks really good. And to your point, maybe he would fit in, but look what he has. He's in a good situation in Atlanta. Charlotte's not a good situation. It's so tough to ask a guy to come into that situation, whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's Andy Dalton, and make chicken salad out of chicken. You know what? I really do believe that.
So I've got about 5 guys, maybe 4 guys who are playing in the NFL right now who I genuinely think could come in and fix the Carolina Panthers. You're not going to get any of them. There is no reset button for this team, for this franchise. But I do think there's 5 guys. If you could pluck them off their roster, put them on this one, you'd have a chance to go out and fix the Carolina Panthers.
You know, it's interesting. And again, Tyler B., I said yesterday, you mentioned Josh Dobbs on the text line, Tyler B. We talked about Josh Dobbs yesterday. I don't know if you could get him from San Francisco. But if you decide to go away from Bryce Young, I do think that'd be a very interesting option, and maybe Dave Canales can make something happen with him. CJ in Greer says, I would say Cousins, so he does agree with you there, Diesel. CJ does. Texter says, I was literally LOL'd out when I said Zach Taylor was on the hot seat before week 1. Sometimes quarterback isn't the biggest problem. That comes from the 3-2-7. Well, currently, Texter, it does look as if his hot seat's trending in the wrong direction. We'll see if it continues to go that way or not. All right, coming up next, we'll get back into the NFL. Robert Saleh, in case you missed it, fired today. We didn't have that on our bingo card. Also, my gas station story that I have to share on air that happened about 1 hour ago. That next. Diesel, I had a terrible regret about an hour and a half ago. Just
do you eat Taco Bell for breakfast?
No, actually, no, I've never done it for breakfast. Never eaten it for breakfast, but I have obviously had the regrets of that before. Not today.
Is that what you call it? The regrets?
Regrets.
Some people call
regrets.
it bubble guts.
No regrets.
Calls it the regrets.
Remember that? No regrets. What
no
was it?
regrets.
Across the chest? Remember that? Or the Millers?
That's a good no regrets? Not even one?
That's a great.
That's not the main thing that I remember from We're the Millers.
No, it's not. All right. Jennifer Aniston. So here's what I do. I always take my phone in places. And today, my biggest regret, maybe my biggest regret of the week, I didn't take my phone in the gas station across the street, across Woodruff Road earlier when I went inside just to get one Red Bull. One single drink, right? I did not take my cell phone inside, and boy, did I regret it. So I'm at the counter, and we're going to get into Robert Saleh in a second, but I'm at the counter, Diesel, and there's a guy in front of me, an older guy. You know how you always get stuck behind the person playing the lottery, and it takes forever. It takes forever. So this guy's playing the lottery. However, he's not just playing the lottery. He pulls out an envelope of cash. You know how you get an envelope from the bank?
Oh, no.
Okay, so there's a table that sits in front of the register at this gas station. You know which one I'm talking about. There's a brown wooden table. He takes the envelope out, and he starts putting stacks. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's older. This is taking forever. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. He has cash left in the envelope. He looks at the envelope, trying to figure out if he's going to stop at 500. He stops. Put the envelope back in his pocket. He counts again. 1, 2, 3, 4, $500 laying on his table, right? He hands it to the man, and the man hands him back. I've never seen it before. An entire book of scratch-offs. He turns at me. He knows I'm sitting there, for 30 minutes now waiting to get one single Red Bull. And he's telling me now that there's no way he's going to lose. He says you can't lose if you buy them all, right? And his final words to me as he spends $500 cash on scratch-off tickets were, and as the one and only said, I'll be back, and walks out. I'm sure he's talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Jesus.
Well, that too. He says, as Arnold Schwarzenegger says, I'll be back, walks out with a book. I'm talking about a book, like a thick book, one you read in high school.
Yeah.
$500. And I'm sitting there kicking myself.
You get 250 tickets if you're talking about $2 scratch-offs.
$20 scratch-offs.
Oh, my.
He bought $20 scratch-offs. So how many ever you can get $500 worth of $20 scratch-offs? No, it wasn't. It had to be $10 because it was a big booklet, probably like 50 total.
Oh.
Anyways.
That's sad to watch.
I'm sitting there kicking myself thinking, Diesel, if I have my phone, I can sit here and take a picture of this table just slam full of cash, a great moment that can be captured as this man spends $500 on scratch-off tickets. How rich do you have to be? $500 to you, I don't know about for you, but for me, I've never in my life thought, hey, let's just go blow $500,000 on scratch-offs.
No, unless... And we would have to have an expert here on scratch-offs, like the odds experts tell us, like, what do the odds say? If you spend $500, if you buy a whole book, what are the odds you're at least going to get your money back out of that stack of scratch-offs? I don't think you do. There's a chance.
It's
right?
unbelievable.
I don't know what the odds are on the $10 scratch-offs. Obviously, with most of those gambling games, the more you spend, the better chance you have of winning. Sure. And if you're buying the $10 scratch off, you have a better chance of winning than you do buying a $2 scratch off. The odds are just lowered, and it's set up that way intentionally to try to get you to spend more money. But number one, again, we don't know this guy's scenario. We don't know if this is his yeah. We don't know if this is his pension check. We don't know if this is his welfare check. We don't know, right? We don't know where this money came from. I hope that the guy's got it to spend, and it's not like he's putting himself in a tough spot or blowing potentially the money he was going to pass down to family.
I'm telling you, man, $500, first time I've ever seen it in my life, be spent all at one time on scratch-offs. I'm kicking myself for not having my phone. I could have had a great moment there to share on Twitter to you guys, to you Tolos. But now, because I don't have a picture, I could be telling a lie, right? That's the world we live in. You catch a fish, you didn't really catch it unless you have a picture of it. So that's the world we live in.
I've only been to a casino twice in my life, once in Curacao in the Caribbean, once out in New Mexico. There was a guy playing roulette next to us in New Mexico. The guy had $5,000 worth of chips, and that dude blew through it fast.
Woo, that's a lot.
Like it was nothing, and he didn't even seem like it bothered him. Man, like I can't imagine what it's like to be that guy.
All right, Robert Saleh. Breaking news today: an NFL coach. Not even during the middle of the season. We're not even halfway through the season yet. The New York Jets have had enough. 2-3. Inexcusable, Diesel. Fire the head coach. Texter, I see your text about Gaffney Burns. I'll get to that in a second. Just hang with us, please. I will answer your question, though. Appreciate you listening to the show. Robert Saleh makes history today, Diesel. There have been other coaches like Mike McCarthy in Green Bay, Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, Matt Rule in Carolina, who have been fired during the regular season. But this is not something we see often in the NFL. And you and I both know good and dang well that this was just not out of the blue. Aaron Rodgers surely had something to do with this, right? I mean, there's no way he didn't.
Oh, of course. Of course. Aaron Rodgers has a history of this. Remember that quote where he said, guys who aren't doing their job, not catching passes, not playing well, give somebody else a chance.
I mean, come on.
And then he went on and threw 3 interceptions in the end zone the following week. Didn't bench himself.
Yeah.
Benched the wide receivers, made that decision for the team that he was going to bench wide receivers, bench offensive linemen, whoever, but didn't bench himself after 3 picks in the end zone.
So I know Jay Gruden, when he was with Washington, he was fired during the 2019 season after 0-5 start. Dennis Allen with Oakland was fired in 2014 after an 0-4 start. It's not something that you see happen a lot. I think Mike McCarthy's probably the biggest name there. He went 4-7-1 in 2018, Diesel, before he took a year off and came to Dallas in 20. He was relieved of his duties. I don't know the situation entirely in New York to know exactly how to react on this. However, are you telling me that the 2-3 start, and are you telling me that Aaron Rodgers completely airmailing footballs and making bad decisions and throwing interceptions, we're supposed to believe, just like we do with LeBron James, and I know I'm a LeBron fan, so I eat crow about this all the time, but we're supposed to believe that this had nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers? I watched that game Sunday, Diesel, and he was pathetic. Aaron Rodgers was not good. He's not playing good football. He's not seeing the field well. So how are you explaining to me that this is Robert Saleh's fault? I feel terrible for the guy.
Well, I'm not going to explain that to you because I 100% agree with you.
Somebody might try to, right?
Yeah. And I tweeted a couple of hours ago that I 100% believe that Aaron Rodgers was involved in this decision to fire Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
I said that he is football's LeBron James as it relates to personnel. I guarantee I don't know how much influence, like LeBron has a lot of influence, right?
Sure.
LeBron can show via stats on the court year in and year out that you need to keep me happy because I am still one of the best, if not the best player in the game right now. Even at his age, how old's LeBron?
74.
Yeah.
40,
take his
40,
jersey and multiply by 3, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he'll retire once he gets 2 times his jersey number, right? When he gets to 46, it's time to go ahead and hang it up, LeBron. But now, like, LeBron can demonstrate why you keep him happy. And also, I understand that the quarterback is the most important position on the field.
Sure.
However, I mean, it takes a lot more than one guy. Like, one guy by himself cannot come in and get you to the playoffs, get you to an NBA Finals, the way LeBron James could step onto probably the Charlotte Hornets and have the Hornets as a playoff team, right? So I understand why you keep LeBron happy. I don't understand why you keep Aaron Rodgers happy. The guy is a jerk. The guy makes terrible decisions. The guy throws people under the bus. He's not a good teammate. I get that you paid a lot of money for him. You brought him in. You think this is the guy that's going to fix everything. but Aaron Rodgers is the locker room cancer in New York.
I think so.
We said it the day he was traded for. We knew that this was going to happen. We knew it was going to be a problem. So I'm not saying that Robert Saleh is some like elite level head coach, right?
Yeah.
But Robert Saleh with Aaron Rodgers was doomed to lose because Aaron Rodgers is doomed to lose, so especially now.
Woody Johnson Diesel, the co-owner of the New York Jets, and we'll get to some comments, text line, and chat blowing up right now, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. I know the next coach that's going to be talked about, Madcraft's already talked about it. We'll get to that in a second. Woody Johnson saw enough. Here's what Woody Johnson had to say this morning. This morning, I informed Robert Saleh that he will no longer serve as the head coach of the Jets. Johnson said, I thanked him for his hard work these past 3.5 years and wished him and his family well moving forward. This was not an easy decision, but we are not where we should have given or where we should be given our expectations. And I believe now is the best time for us to move in a different direction. So Woody Johnson, the co-owner of the Jets, Diesel, believes that expectations placed on the team because of Aaron Rodgers, and that's it. Right? I know they have talent, but let's be honest. It's because of Aaron Rodgers. Woody Johnson has now bought into the hype and belief that they should be who the media tells them to be because they have Aaron Rodgers.
Look, if I'm Robert Saleh, I am celebrating. I am dancing in the streets right now saying, thank God I am away from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, people will look back on his tenure in New York, especially his tenure with Aaron, and say, you know what? You get a pass for this one. You get a pass for this one, Robert. We understand that you're a smart guy. He's going to get another chance at a head coach.
I think so
in the NFL. But teams will look back and say, "Oh, yeah, I kind of get it, man. Yeah. I get why you struggled there."
It's an interesting conversation. Madcraft says, this means Bill Belichick's going to be a New York Jet, right? Madcraft, I don't know. Look, it wouldn't surprise me. Texter says, fire the defensive-minded head coach after Soy Boy Rodgers throws 3 picks, and they are only 1 game out of first place. Good call, Jets, says a texter from the 419. Texter from the 230 says Robert Saleh also was removed from the facility by security. He did not even get to address the team. It's a tough spot. I don't know if Bill Belichick's the next guy you call. Diesel, I don't know. You have a lot of season left. Do you go outside right now, or do you just go within? I don't know that you can go outside during the middle of a season, can you?
No, I mean, you can start you can get a big head start on vetting candidates for next year. And I think in that sense, it's smart to do so. If you genuinely don't believe, right or wrong, if you believe that Robert Saleh is not the right guy, you got to get a head start on coaching candidates. At least now you can be serious and open and public about the candidates that you're interviewing. So in that sense, I think it's a smart move doing it the way you're doing it when you and granted, there might be more going on internally that we don't know about.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what that plane ride from London was like on the way back to New York from London after that game. It wasn't even a bad football game, right? Like they didn't get blown out in London. It was disappointing if you're a Jets fan. I get it, but it's not like it was awful. I mean, my only thought is was there some sort of major blow up between Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers? Because they've been talking about this for weeks now, right?
Yeah.
People have been analyzing the body language between Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh for weeks, trying to figure out, is this relationship frosty? Is it okay? What's going on here? And there had to have been something go down.
Diesel Texter agrees with you, Diesel, and says, as a lifelong Vikings fan, I can tell you the Jets were the best defense the Vikings played all year. Saleh won't be unemployed long for a defensive coordinator. Another texter from the 803 says, this firing signals to me that the Jets will do whatever it takes to acquire Devontae Adams since Aaron Rodgers runs the show. So,
did you misspell it, Aaron, like a girl spells Aaron on purpose, texter?
You know he did, right? We'll get back to this. I know we've got to run. A really interesting story, though, as Robert Saleh let go. I also wanted to get to texter from the 680. Texter says, Cole, do you know if the Gaffney Burns game is on for Friday night? You guys have the best program on the Fan Upstate. Always enjoy the program. Thanks. Texter, that means a lot. Appreciate you, man. Yes, Burns Gaffney is on for Friday. The high school league had some breaking news this morning. We'll get to that later in the program coming up at 6 o'clock. But yes, Burns Gaffney is on right here on the Fan Upstate Friday night.
Also, some big news, Cole, in the minutia that brings us closer and closer to college football players becoming employees. What's changed? And well, now that players are going to get this, what should the universities get out of the deal? That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. Cole, it's happening. It's happening. Revenue sharing and employment is coming to college football.
Oh,
On Monday, yesterday, a federal judge granted preliminary approval to the terms of the antitrust settlement that eliminates restrictions on schools directly paying players. It's like step one of the process, right? They can't just outright say, yeah, you can do it, but they have granted. I don't know why they need preliminary approval and then final approval, but a final hearing is scheduled in April, which means, Cole, that for the 2025 school year, if all goes to plans, schools will be able to pay their players next year.
University actually forking out money.
Yeah.
Not collectives,
well,
not
they have
sponsors,
to.
Right? Yeah.
They have to. That's part of the House versus NCAA settlement. That's
Correct.
the $20 million annually revenue sharing that schools have to pay up to athletes who are on their
And again,
on their
before
staff.
we get into that, I want to be clear. This is, I know you just touched on this, but without it being, a flag in the air of saying, hey, this is how we get it started, wouldn't you say this is a critical step in terms of what you and I have both talked about? And I think we're both for in terms of them being employees of the institutions in a big, big way.
I am definitely for it. And look, if we hadn't gone through everything that we've gone through over the past 2+ years of NIL and the transfer portal and the insanity that is involved therein, I would say no. I don't want these I don't want these student athletes being university employees, because at what point do they just say, you know what? I'm not here to go to school.
Right.
Who is it? The Ohio State quarterback who said, I'm not here to major in school. I'm here to major in football.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. So I can almost hear his name. It's on the tip of my tongue. Somebody help me out. But Cole, if I'm in a negotiation here, and this will continue to develop as we get closer to April, which is 6 months away, by the way.
Wow.
There's going to be some back and forth between the schools and the players, and maybe some form of a players association that will lead us to a point where everybody settles and everybody's in a good spot, right? And hopefully we get to a point where there's finally some stability, not like rock solid, you can do this, you can't do that, like they had with the NCAA before, but some form of stability here. So I want you to act on behalf of the players, Cole, as a players association representative, and I'm going to act on behalf of the school, a collective school representative, and let's like hash out some things we want out of this deal. I mean, if you're going to become employees of my university, here's what I want, and if you are going to be an employee of my university, here's some things that you want.
Okay, the first thing that I can think, this is tough because I don't like these things that I'm going to tell you, right? I don't think they're right. However, if I'm acting as, the player here and thinking of the potential of being compensated not only by NIL, but also the university, I want to be able to, just as an employee does, Diesel, I want to be able to be paid, compensated for what I'm worth, but also if I'm not, take my talents elsewhere, just like we're seeing with NIL and the transfer portal. I don't know what kind of limits this will have with the portal, because that, as you said, hasn't been hashed out yet. I don't want to feel like I can only play at this school because if I'm not getting along with coach, head coach, quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, and they sit me on the bench and I'm second string, I don't want to be stuck somewhere for 3 years where I'm not happy.
Okay. All right. I hear you. That's not the first thing on my list of things that I want as the university representative here, but you want some freedom of movement. Okay?
Freedom of movement. Yep.
So I will grant you a freedom of movement that you could get out of the contract that you're in with us. However, I want to have first right of refusal. That is, if you're my second string linebacker at Alabama and you're not playing enough and you're not happy, and LSU comes and offers you a boatload of money to transfer to LSU, I need first right of refusal. I need the option and the ability to match whatever offer it is that LSU is giving you or exceed it to keep you here. How about that? First right of refusal. I could pay you exactly what they're offering to get you or more if it's critical to me to keep you. Because what if my long-term plan is you're a freshman and I need you here next year. I understand that our linebacker, the guy that you're going to replace as a senior, he's about to leave. I need you this year or next year or the year after that. So I need first right of refusal to keep you on campus in Tuscaloosa. So you're still going to get paid.
Yeah.
Probably going to get paid more. How about that?
So it's you're going to try to barter your way to keep me.
Yeah.
That's what you're asking.
So how this works in the radio business, if you and I are still under contract and another radio company comes along and says, hey, wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, we love what you guys are doing. You guys are making X number of dollars. We're gonna give you both a 20% raise to bring you to wherever, up to Charlotte or over to Raleigh or wherever.
Yeah.
Odyssey has first right of refusal to say, hey, guess what, guys? We're going to pay you that 20% increase to keep you here in the upstate because we like you that much.
Okay. Well, that leads to my second point. I want a payout.
Okay.
If you can't, right? Like I want a buyout, rather, a buyout. I want a buyout built in somehow to where if I do leave, you still have to pay me. Because I don't want to leave and not get – because let me ask you this question. How's the money being spent?
If I was the university and I'm losing an asset, why would I still pay you?
Well, they do for coaches. They do coaches, right? Head coaches?
Right, but the buyout is paid by the university that you're going to.
I don't know, though. When's the money come in? Like, that's the question for me. And maybe I just don't fully understand all of this yet.
Okay. How about this? I want you on a 3-year contract.
Ooh.
If I recruit you out of high school, I want the ability to sign you to a 3-year contract. Most of the time, the elite players are going to the NFL after 3 years anyway. So I want the ability by contract, negotiated in financial terms, what it will take to keep you on my campus for 3 years, which is the likely tenure, if you're elite, that you're going to stay in college anyway.
I don't love that.
You don't love that?
How
about if I offer you medical care, free medical care after you leave my school? So injuries that you've sustained while playing for me are going to be covered for the tenure that you were here.
Yeah.
So if you stayed here for 2 years, you get 2 years of free medical care. Stay here for 3 years, you get 3 years of free medical care. Can I interest you in that?
Well, I'm fine with the written agreement part of it because I do want to have a written agreement so that I get my money up front, right? Because we've seen situations when NIL turns sour, Diesel. But the medical care, again, while it may be important to the person who's over the player, like even the parents, I don't even know how much the actual player cares about it. I don't know. That's a sad thing. Do players even care about the benefits, if you will?
It's a fascinating conversation.
It is.
It's really interesting to see how this is going to go. And if it turns out the universities have to share $20 million with them and they can still go out and keep getting NIL and can keep transferring to other schools, the universities are getting fleeced in this situation. I understand they're still making a ton of money off of this. I'm not arguing that point, but the university has to just fork over $20 million and still has no way to keep you around if I want to keep you around.
All right. If the college football season, Diesel, ended today, who do we think would be the final 12? We talked about playoffs yesterday and how I think it has watered down the regular season. So if we find 12 today, how do we think that changes between now and the end of the regular season? 1 hour from right now, it's your chance, Tolos, to take over these airwaves. What am I talking about? If you're a new Tolo, you just found us recently on on Wire to Wire here on the Fan Upstate. Tolo Takeover. We do it most Tuesdays at 5 p.m. during high school football, during football season. High school football season is back finally, Diesel, but we do it during football season. We give our Tolos a chance to take over these airwaves, and Tolos, we're giving you that very chance coming up at 5 p.m. So whatever it is that you want to talk about, whatever you want to take over with, sometimes it's gripes. For Diesel and I, it's been different things. For Stephen Webb, it was not getting enough sauce packets at his local restaurant. So 1 hour from now, we'll have the Tolo Takeover. Go ahead and get in your mind what you're going to take over these airwaves about. 71307 is the text line. Save it in your phone. But Diesel, let's get into a little college football playoff because it is the first season, the first time ever that in college football we're looking at a 12-team playoff. We've anticipated all offseason, talked about it a good bit, but there has been some movement between the start of the season and now. So when you look at the teams currently in the AP poll, and you and I both know that in a few weeks from now, when the College Football Committee gets together and starts releasing their poll, the AP poll will be pretty much meaningless, right? However, it's the poll that we talk about right now, right?
Better get all the cash you can right now, AP, because you're about to lose it all.
Get every single bit of it. Go ahead and cash in now, to Diesel's point. If the season ended today, though, and I want to hear from you, Tolos, as well. 71307. Again, start your text with the word fan. Phone lines are open, 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. If the season ended right now, what would the college football playoff look like? And then after we find out what it would look like, Diesel, how much change do we think there's going to be in what it would look like right now versus at the end of the season? The reason I want to do this is it will give us, Diesel, a good gauge. In the very first season of the playoff, it'll give us a good gauge on the movement in the top 10, top 15, top 25, and how that movement impacts the playoff, and if the regular season really is watered down. Because I said that yesterday, right? I had a problem with the regular season now being watered down. This will allow us, when the season's over, to go back and say, okay, it was watered down or it wasn't. I know the AP poll's out right now, and you can view it every single week as they update it on Sundays. But as we go through, Diesel, I want to find out who's in and who's out in the college football playoff. It's a fascinating conversation because you and I both know that there will be at-large bids, there will be conference winners, and then there will also be a highest-ranked G5 team, right? We don't know who that G5 team will be yet, but let's start there. If the season ended today, the G5 team, you have said before that you think will be somewhere around number 12 in the country, and you're probably right. Maybe 11, maybe 10, depending on the rest of the teams and who they are. But is Boise State right now the only real option for that highest-ranked G5?
Yeah, Boise State is really, really good. They're 4-1 right now. I mean, you go down the AP top 25, there's not another G5 in the top 25. You got to go all the way to third in others receiving votes, and it's Navy with 43 votes. Navy is a good football team. Navy beat Memphis a couple of weeks back. Army is in that conversation. You scroll back, you keep going back and back and back, Cole. There's not even another G5 who is getting votes right now in the others receiving votes. Now, by the end of the season, you may be talking about Liberty. God, it makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit to talk about Liberty coming out of Conference USA with the weakest schedule in college football for the second straight year. And that's not me just hating on their schedule. That is what the strength of schedule says. The strength of schedule rankings has them as dead last, as weakest schedule. So they have this easy run potentially into the college football playoff. And it puts a lot of pressure on Boise State to go out there and be perfect and keep performing. But I think with Ashton Genty, assuming he stays healthy, Boise State is, in my mind, the shoe-in to be the G5 rep.
I think so. And when I predicted my 12, Boise State was the team that I had as the highest-ranked G5 team that does get in.
Not for long, because they're going to be P5 before
That's
long.
True.
They're going
That's
to
true.
the Pac-12.
So as I go through the list, I want to dissect yes or no from you. And I'll tell you if I agree or disagree, but you have a list of teams that you think will be in it or would be right now, right? If the season ended today. And I'm going to start in the AP poll, but I just want to go through one by one. And I want to ask first, we're going to start about 15 in the AP poll. Would Texas A&M be in or out if the season ended today in your mind?
Texas A&M would be out if it ended today.
Even though they're 5-1.
That would be tragic because A&M is trending in the right direction. I think they would be out. I think people are still looking at Alabama and Tennessee as better than Texas A&M, despite the fact that both of them lost this past week.
And again, when I ask you about teams like A&M and LSU, Diesel, this is what I hope doesn't happen. I hope that just because they lose or just because they're not in the conference championship game and they're not the loser, I hope they're not on the outside looking in, right? Because there are at-large bids. And I just hope and pray that those large bids aren't every loser, because I will be so disgusted and absolutely done with this 12-team playoff if it's as simple as, the first four are your conference winners, the core four, your 4 through 8 are the runners-up, and then 9, 10, 11, you know what, you flip a coin in the 12 Boise
If you're going to do that, don't even bother playing the conference championship games.
Exactly.
Just take whoever you think are the 2 best in every conference and put them in. Now, you can argue who gets the 1 seed. If you're talking about the SEC, who gets the 1 or who gets the 5, just take the top 2 of every conference and put them in. If that's what you want to do, don't even bother, because now we're legitimately in the conversation, Cole, of what happens if the power team, the best team, the one that we think is elite. This was the fear they tried to sell us for all those years. The fear of a conference championship game. What if Alabama lost to Missouri in the conference championship game? Disregard the fact that it never happened, right? But what if the good team, the one that we all want to be in the playoff, loses to a team that shouldn't be in because, they were the best in a weak division?
Yeah. And again, maybe I phrased it the wrong way. And again, you Tolos, tell me as we go through 71307 if you think these teams will be in at the end of the season when it all matters, when it's actually all said and done. A&M, I know, is on the borderline. Even though they're 5-1, they moved up 10 spots in the AP poll. Tennessee, though, Diesel, Tennessee's interesting. After the loss to Arkansas, they're now 4-1. They sit currently at 8 in the AP poll. So obviously, if they just took the top 12 today, Tennessee would be in. But the beauty of it is there's so much SEC play left. Tennessee losing to Arkansas probably isn't talked about enough, in my opinion, because that's a loss they probably couldn't afford to have. How do you view Tennessee now compared to the end of the season after the loss to Arkansas?
So I have Tennessee still in because they will look at the entire body of work. I get it's not against elite opponents the first 4 weeks of the season, but Tennessee was putting up just gaudy video game type of numbers.
Right.
And they'll say, okay, you had one opportunity against a power team at your roughly same level, and you lost. Like the way you play, how you look changed entirely, but they'll still look at total body of work. I would have Tennessee in, but they would be pretty far down the list. On my bracket, I put together a mock bracket. I would have Tennessee in as the 10 seed.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. And look, out of all the teams we'll talk about, I think Tennessee is the most interesting. I really do, because you said it. They still have a schedule in front of them. I'll get to that schedule. Texter says, what do you all think of SMU? There's a small chance, but a chance that Miami, Clemson, and SMU go 8-0. What happens then? Texter, I'm glad you asked. We'll get to SMU in a second. But Diesel, they have talking about Tennessee now. They have Florida. We expect them to beat Florida, right?
I expect them to embarrass Florida.
Correct. Here's the problem, though. It gets tougher. You have Alabama. Then you have 2 weeks where you'll probably win by a combined total of 50 points, Kentucky and Mississippi State. You should. Let's put it that way. And then you have Georgia. Then you have UTEP and Vandy. They'll win those games. So for Tennessee, they still have Alabama and they still have Georgia. Again, going back to what I said about the loss to Arkansas this past weekend, I think that was a loss that they just can't have, because if this team, Diesel, finishes the regular season with 3 SEC losses, that becomes the conversation of, okay, how many SEC teams are going to get in? Are those 3 at large that aren't the conference championship loser, are they all going to be SEC teams?
Yeah, we've had the conversation on the year before. Isn't it almost advantageous to not even make the SEC championship game?
I know.
Isn't it great to be the best team that doesn't make it in? So let's just say that it's Texas, Alabama, right? Then you're saying, well, Georgia didn't even have to go play in an SEC title game, and they got extra time to get healthy and get ready. Sure, they might have gotten a little bit rusty. 5 more players might have gotten arrested since then.
Yeah,
because it's Georgia. Everybody's getting arrested in Georgia. They pass out diplomas along with rap sheets down there. So it's almost advantageous to not be in the SEC title game.
It is. And I just think that we could see these conference championships, Diesel, that like after the season, we could look at these conference championships in a different light. Like maybe, I'm not saying they don't mean anything, but I'm just saying
meaningless conference championship. You heard it here first, folks.
Let's give it time and find out what these because to your point, again, I don't want to speak before existence, but let's give it time. In 3 months from now, let's really evaluate what those games mean, because you might be right.
Look, Greg Sankey is nothing if not somebody who's willing to make massive changes to benefit his conference in any way that he possibly can. What if Greg Sankey was the first one to say, sure, we're leaving a lot of money on the table by not hosting a conference championship game.
Yeah.
But we put our 2 best teams in harm's way against each other,
right,
when both of them are still going to make the college football playoff anyway. Why are we even doing this? So he'll find a way to make up that revenue, and he will cancel the SEC championship game. Believe me, it could happen. That is something that he would consider doing. Even if it's not likely, he would consider it.
Okay, so I'm going to get to SMU because the texter asked. But another texter chimes in and says, with so many more games now and the expanded playoffs, probably going to 16 in 2 to 3 years, there's absolutely no need for a conference champ. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. People will push back on that, but I'm just telling you, watch out.
I value regular season championship more than I do a one-off performance in one game.
I do too.
The conference championship game at this point is a spectacle, right? It's an opportunity for you to put your 2 best teams on the field, make a lot of money in television revenue and advertising, and then send them both off to the playoff, hopefully intact, right? Yep. Well, you don't necessarily need that. Just have a race for the conference championship regular season, and then you have an 8-game body of work that you can compare, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. So let's go back to the texter about SMU, because SMU is fascinating. Texter asks, what do you think about SMU? There's a small chance, but a chance that Miami, Clemson, and SMU go 8-0. Well, Texter, I hate to burst your bubble, but that could not happen because SMU already has a loss. SMU lost to BYU. SMU Diesel currently sits at 5-1 on the season. They have Stanford, Duke remaining, 22 ranked Pittsburgh Panthers team, Boston College, Virginia, and California. What's interesting about SMU is, just as Grayson, man of TigerNet, told me and you yesterday, do you see Miami on that schedule? Do you see Clemson on there? Okay, that's what I'm saying.
I think maybe the best games left on their schedule are Pitt, Boston College,
maybe Cal.
Maybe. I mean, Virginia's what, 4-1? Don't look now.
God,
fighting Tony Elliott's.
God,
4-1.
I don't know, man.
Right?
I don't know.
I don't think there's enough brand value on this schedule to put them in an at-large situation. You know, I mean, you could certainly argue, hey, you stepped up in competition from the American Athletic to the ACC this year, and you were great. Congratulations, pat on the back. See you in the playoff next year. Go do it again, right? I'm just not sure that their first ACC schedule did not give them an opportunity for a marquee win. Louisville ultimately will not look like a marquee win by the end of the season. I genuinely don't think that.
Well, they'd have to beat Louisville and Pitt, Diesel, in order for me to say, okay, look, you've got 2 wins. To your point, it's not a mark. It's not a win that we all just say, oh, wow, what a win. But it's 2 solid wins, right?
Yeah, 2 good wins.
Yeah, and I think if they put back-to-back against Louisville and Pitt and then take care of business down the stretch.
But when you're in a boardroom arguing whether or not SMU with wins over Pitt and Cal, Louisville, versus arguing at Tennessee or arguing in Alabama, be like, hey, but Tennessee went and beat Alabama. Tennessee went and beat Georgia. Let's say they split those 2 games, right? Wouldn't you be arguing that Tennessee has the much more impressive resume? Because that's where we are. You're guaranteed a spot in if you win your conference championship game as a Power 4 member. After that, it's all semantics, right? It's all debate.
So here's what's interesting, not to get stuck on SMU, Diesel, but the ACC conversation, the texter came back and said, sorry, I meant ACC only. No, that's fair, texter, because if all 3 went undefeated in the ACC, because Clemson don't play Miami doesn't play SMU, and SMU doesn't play Clemson. Yeah. They could, and then you'd have a tiebreaker scenario, which, again, I don't disagree with your brand conversation of SMU, but SMU could be the most interesting team when it's all said and done in terms of will they get in.
Well, my only issue with SMU at this point is they have not looked far and away impressive against a good football team. Yep. TCU, probably their best performance of the year. Obviously, they put up 66 points in that game, but they also gave up 42. So you got a lot of offense. You got no defense, right? They put up a lot of offense, a lot of offense against Florida State, but that's not really saying anything at this point. You got into a touchdown shootout with Louisville. So, you haven't looked great against the sexy looking helmets.
And there's a lot of football to play. They could slip up. They could.
Sure.
But they do have a very good chance, to the texter's point, to go 8-0. It would, I'm telling you, for the first year of the ACC with this new look, it would be very fascinating to have them, Clemson, and Miami all 8-0. Let's go to the phones real quick before we hit a break. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-6663. Tyler wants to chime in on the conversation. What's up, Tyler?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, Tyler.
So just want to weigh in on this SMU conversation. So everything that I've read thus far and heard on ACC Network, so if SMU, Miami, and Clemson are all tied 8-0, they run the table in the conference. The first tiebreaker is obviously your conference record. Second, if you have the same conference record, it's head-to-head. Third is common opponents. And then fourth is uncommon opponents. So if they all run the table, the tiebreaker would be that uncommon opponents metric. And right now, the uncommon opponents, so SMU would have Duke, BC, and Cal, all with winning records right now. Miami would have Cuse, Cal, Georgia Tech, and Duke, all with winning records. And Clemson would have NC State, Wake, both with losing records right now, and UVA. We'll see what they do. But there's a very good possibility. I'm a Clemson fan, but realistically, there is a solid possibility that if they look at non-common opponent strength of record at the end of the season, SMU could get the nod over Clemson.
It's good. It's good stuff.
And that could put them in the ACC championship game.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
That's really
Tyler, really good phone call. We appreciate you,
Tyler.
man. Really good stuff.
There's so much to wrap our heads around.
I hope that happens so bad.
It's so
I hope that
convoluted.
happens so bad. Those 3, Clemson, Miami, and SMU. I want them all 8-0, Diesel. I want them all undefeated.
Could you imagine Tiger fans how nuclear they would go if they got left out of the ACC title game for Miami, SMU?
Well, we haven't had to deal with that, and that's why I like the no divisions, because it does create an aspect of college football, Diesel, that we've never had to deal with in terms of tiebreakers on this large of a scale.
When we come back, Cole, we are 24 hours away, less than 24 hours away from getting to the Upset Picks Challenge for week number 7. What are your early leans? What games do you like at this point? Tolos, you can play along as well. Text in 71307. We'll get to that next. 23 and a half hours from right now, the Upset Picks Challenge for week number 7 will open up. You can start getting in your upset picks, the picks that could push a couple of you off the list. We currently, Cole, have a handful of Tolos who are in danger of falling out of scoring, okay? Nashty, Shane and Sugartit, and Ruby Downs all have 1 point or less. So you three could fall off of the list.
And I'm not far behind them.
No, you're not. Cole, you are. Let me see. God, we got so many Tolos who have scored, who have points right now, that it's hard to find an individual name. Somebody says, hey, how many points do I have? I don't know. Let me read through this Pride
60,
and Prejudice.
What? No, 90 something,
length.
Right?
Yeah, we have, I think it was 85, 85 Tolos who have points right now, which is just absurd.
Wow. That's great.
So to go through the top 45, and we say top 45, it used to be top 25, and then it became top 30 so that we could kind of do this poll where it looks like the AP top 25, and then we have an others receiving votes, others with points down below that. Twisted Whisker is in the lead with 43. Noel has 38. Josh Payton third with 37 points. Amazon guy keeps on falling back, Cole. I think you might have actually jinxed him.
The only good thing that I did this season when it comes to the Upset Picks Challenge, because everyone knows my picks have been horrible. Diesel, in fact, I'll tell you what I was thinking about doing. Madcraft made the mistake. Madcraft comes on the stream a minute ago and says, hey, I actually have a pick this week I'm confident in for the first time. I said, well, I can't wait to hear it. I might, you know, if you're so confident and it's a big enough jump, I might take a stab at it.
Doesn't Madcraft have 0 points?
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I don't know that I would trust his word.
Jinx, real quick on the Twitter, Jinx asked, Cole, are high school football games happening this week? Jinx, yes, they are. Believe it or not, Diesel, I was laying in bed last night, scrolling through the games, just looking, trying to find one. I was trying, and I've got several. But I want to hear from you, as well as Hartolo, 71307. You say, like, oh, I'm confident in this game. I'm confident in it. But then, like, 20 minutes later, you're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. That's where I find myself.
Yeah. So Twisted Whisker first with 43. Noel with 38 and second. Josh Payton third. Amazon guy, John Dog, Buckeye Brandon Gosnell, E. Thoughty, Justin L., Greenville Gamecock, Brandon Fremore, Jake Crane, Reese Davis, James Owens. That's the Tolo who had never played this challenge before, picked Vanderbilt over Alabama. Jumps from 0 to 23 points. Billy Horn, Brandon in Spartanburg, Reed Atkins, Rev Red, Joe D, Clemson Oculus. You all round out the top 20 on this challenge.
And one more time, the leader right now is who?
The leader right now is Twisted Whisker.
With how many?
43. God, 43.
Like, is it possible to even catch? I mean, 43.
It's possible, but if you want to try to catch Twisted Whisker,
it's not going to happen.
You gotta pick South Carolina over Alabama, right? Like that's what you have to do. You have to pick these 20 pointers.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Starting in 21st place, you got Fred Savage, JT and Greer, CJ from Greer, Kevin Buggs, JC, Sheezy, Scotty from BMW, Brian Andrews, Sherb, Matt M from Gaffney, T. Ray, Coach AJ, Wesley Roberts, me with 16 points.
Who is me?
Diesel. Shane Barrett. Yeah, I don't talk about myself in the third person. Shane Barrett, Mike Main, Isaac, Lee Corso, Just Jess, John Corley, Billy Ho, Dion, Tigerville Bo, Ty Duncan 864, and Cheesehead Corey. You guys round out the top 45.
Check this
on
out.
This list.
You just mentioned James Owens, who went from never playing to playing.
Yeah.
He's in the chat. He says, I'm an EMT this week. That's why he asked about high school football.
Yeah.
I'm an EMT at Wade Hampton Boiling Springs. Oh, and by the way, hey, I'm that James Owens guy. That's
James,
unbelievable.
James, can you give me the proper medical procedure for pulling a horseshoe out of your backside? Because you've done that in the last week.
Unbelievable
on the show.
So I have a big issue with this week's Upset Picks Challenge, Diesel. I have a really big issue. Because the challenge does not open until tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Right.
I cannot pick Florida International to beat Liberty tonight.
No, you can't.
Oh!
No, you can't.
is 16 points.
Game is off the board. You have to pick starting on Wednesday. Them's the rules.
That's fine, but let me tell you, if FIU beats them, I will be so mad. It's tonight, Tuesday night.
You know, it's funny. We don't really historically, we've never had a whole lot of listeners on the show picking the midweek action games.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody picks the Power 5 games because you feel like you have a better sense of those teams, right? That's why I ended up picking a lot of Sunbelt games because I feel like I have a decent sense on the Sunbelt.
Sure.
So I don't know. We've never really. It's never been a problem. It's never come up. People picking the Tuesday night games.
Now you could though on the board tomorrow night. Jacksonville State Diesel 20.5-point favorites.
You could
over New Mexico State, who I tried to pick, and they're terrible.
I think I picked New Mexico State once this year too.
I did, and
didn't work out for me. No. From 45 on down, I'm just going to go through the names quickly here. Tolo Steve, Sparty Party 12, Palmetto Buckeyes, Stanford Steve, Leprechaun of Lyman, Tiger Pal Rachel, Bo Mo, Roger Carper, Dab Daddy, Pac Fan Shuff. You all have at least 10 points. Under 10 points, you got Mason Brew, Tyler B, Mark Ello Ducks, JB, Nick Saban, Mark Ryan.
Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Oh.
Kirk Herbstreit, Grandpa Bucky, Notre Dame Nate, Chris Phillips, Big Mick, Hurst, Frank Wagner, Keith and TR, Shane Connick, Jersey Joe, Scotty Mack, Brian Pettit, Jarrett Tripp, Diddy, Gold Rush, Josh P1 Panther Boy, Falcon Jeremy, Cole Bryson, G, Eric in Spartanburg, Ben in Simpsonville, JD Wyatt, Chase G, Vance M, MD75, Trey from Kentucky, Tolo Phil, Tron, Will G, Ethan Reed, Melissa Level, Mike M, Ruby Downs, Shane and Sugar Tit, and Nashty.
Pretty much the whole of state.
Everybody, yeah.
Twisted Whisker Diesel says Vanderbilt 14-point dogs to Kentucky is really talking to me. I looked at that game last night. What?
Yeah.
Vandy plus 14 against Kentucky. Again, Twisted Whisker. It goes back to the conversation we had last week. Does Vanderbilt do it 2 times in a row?
Yeah.
Do they pull the upset twice?
I mean, they've shown the ability to win against good teams this year. They've also shown the ability to lose to teams that they shouldn't lose to.
Yeah.
I mean, he's taken the Hail Mary strategy every single week. All he needs to do is hit on like 2 of those all season long, and he could win the whole thing. That's what's crazy about this. Think about that. If he hit twice, number one, I'd say, where's your DeLorean parked? Number 2, Cole, he would have, and I think that spread is 21.5. He would have 44.5 points. He would vault from 0 to first place in 2 weeks.
And just so you know, you and other Tolos make fun of me because it takes me 4 or 5 days or years to pick mine. I think I already have mine this week.
You do?
I do. I'll tell you a few that I'm leaning. You and okay, I'm gonna be the home run guy. I'm already so far down. I don't want to finish like 34th. I want to finish top 5. So I did look at UNLV Friday night Diesel against Utah State. UNLV is favored by 18.5 over Utah State. I'm not a Mountain West expert, but I thought about taking Utah State there. I don't think it'll happen.
I've got one game from out west on my list.
Oh, from Mountain West you do?
No, not Mountain West.
Oh,
it's just out west.
Gotcha.
I've got Utah at Arizona State. Arizona State's 6.5-point dogs in that one. Sam Levitt and Cam Scatabo. Cam Scatabo, one of the best names in college football this year. They have Arizona State 4-1. This was a program that was down bad. So this feels like kind of an enchanted season for them. Matchup predictor on this one is nearly 50-50. I just got to see how I just got to see how Utah is faring, and it's worth 6.5 points. So I feel pretty good about that. Arizona State is the home team. If that's a night game, book it. Book it for the Sun Devils.
Yeah. It's a 10:30 game.
Is it?
10:30.
Oh man, that's the one I got.
Friday night.
Friday. Oh, thank God it's Friday night, not Saturday night, because I wouldn't be able to stay up that late.
Yeah, Friday night.
Saturday night.
You know, one question I did have this week, though, as I was taking some look, what?
He's talking trash.
What did he say?
Says, tell us who you're picking now, so we can avoid that pick like the plague.
That's a good idea. It is a good idea, James. Funny,
trash
funny,
talker.
mean, but
Johnny
good idea.
come lately. You
it's
just
good.
got here.
But you know what?
Talking
It's deservingly so. Diesel, the question I have, South Carolina's a popular pick. Obviously, we have a lot of South Carolina fans in the audience.
Over under 10.5.
Well, that's where I was going. You
No,
read
no.
my mind.
Over under 10.5 Tolos who will pick that game.
Well, that's exactly. I was going to ask
sorry.
you. I was going to say, how many do you think? I think it'd be more than 10.
You think, oh,
Yeah,
really?
absolutely.
Really?
I thought about picking them.
Come on.
What's a 21-point spread, though?
Come on.
21 points. You know how far I'd leap with a 21-point win this weekend?
I feel like, and we're not actually going to do this. We're not actually, we wouldn't actually propose this rule, but I'm going to say in the future, we should have like a rule. If you pick a 20+ point favorite or underdog to win the game and you get it wrong, you should get a -2. Like it should be far more penal to pick a big upset like that and just go for the gold week in and week out and get it wrong.
I just want to pick it just because I'd be like taking a big jump in the standings. And at 12:00 noon Saturday, I'd probably be one of the biggest South Carolina Gamecock fans in the world pulling for the Gamecocks to beat Bama. I don't think it'll happen.
Does it ever like stick in your throat a little bit when you cheer for South Carolina?
No,
I know you're a Clemson fan.
The only time I do is if I bet on them, you know, like if, let's say, for example, against Kentucky, you know, I think I did bet on Carolina against Kentucky, by the way.
Mad Craft says he's looking at this 1-4 Ball State over 0-5 Kent State.
Oh God, what a terrible matchup. But somebody's got to win though, right?
Do you know what state Kent State is in?
Alabama. No.
That's Kennesaw State.
Kent State is where Nick Saban went to school.
Did he?
Yeah.
Do you know what state that's in?
God. No, I don't know. I'm going to Tennessee?
No.
What
It's
state?
north of that. North of
Ohio?
It's in Ohio. Yeah. It's in Kent, Ohio.
That's where Nick Saban went.
I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
Like if it's a MAC team and it doesn't have the name of the state in it, just assume that it's from Ohio.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's Northern Illinois and Eastern and Western and why is there no Southern Michigan University? That's what I want to know, first of all. But also,
Southern Miss.
You have Toledo, Akron, Kent State, and is Bowling Green in Kentucky or is Bowling Green State in Tennessee? Or,
I think it's in
Ohio.
I think it's in Kentucky. But I'm pretty sure. I said Nick Saban went to Kansas State. I'm 99% sure.
It's in Ohio.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, there's
a lot of colleges there.
4 colleges, and there's Ohio State and Cincinnati. There's far too many schools in Ohio.
I did have one more, though, I wanted to ask you about in this little study session. The Red River rivalry. People...
Can we just call it the shootout? Because I don't like Red River
rivalry.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it
is.
is.
The shootout. Just go back. You know, like we're in a time of reclaiming what was taken away from us by stupid marketing decisions. It's the Red River shootout.
Well, Texas, obviously the favorite in that game, Diesel, by 14 points.
Yep.
People would say, oh, Texas is going to win. You know, it's not even going to be close. You know, Texas should dominate. Well, guess what? A little piece of history here. Texas has not dominated that. They've not dominated that rivalry at all. In fact, if you go look at the recent matchups, Oklahoma won last year. And then Texas won in 2022. But guess what, Diesel? The previous 4 matchups, Oklahoma won 4 in a row. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'll tell you this. I'm interested in Oklahoma plus 14.5 in Dallas on Saturday. I really am, man. I'm interested in that one.
That's fascinating. 14.5. That's a big hitter if you get that one right. I don't hate it. When you're, what's that old saying? When you're in big rivalry games like this, throw the records out.
True.
Anything could happen. I think Texas is just too talented across the board.
I think so too.
I think they're just
really
too talented.
do. I don't know though.
Here's one that I want to get your thoughts on, Cole. This is one that I'm genuinely looking at. Coastal Carolina plus 9.5 at James Madison.
I saw that.
Now here's the crazy thing about this one. You would probably say, those of you who haven't been paying attention, well, how could you bet against James Madison, right? James Madison put up 70 points on North Carolina. Well, guess what? They only scored 19 last week to UL Monroe. So they, after scoring 63 and 70 in back-to-back weeks against Ball State and North Carolina, they put up a 19 burger against UL Monroe. So I don't really know who this James Madison team is.
It's funny you say that.
Coastal Carolina has, outside of the Virginia game, Coastal Carolina has been pretty consistent and putting up a lot of points this year. They've averaged 38 points a game this year.
I looked at that game.
Yeah.
I have interest in it.
You just have to figure out which James Madison is going to show up.
Well, if it's the James Madison that we're used to, you would think that they would win and cover. But they haven't been the best. I mean, I don't think their strength of schedule has been the best either. But it's a fascinating game. Tomorrow, though, 4 p.m., the Upset Picks Challenge opens. If you have not entered yet, do so before it's too late.
And, of course, we appreciate Ingles for being the title sponsor of this challenge. Thank you, Ingles, so much.
They're the absolute best. Getting you updated on what's happened in the sports world. A lot, actually. NFL coach fired. Daily Wire's next. So much to get to in the Daily Wire segment, where we get you caught up on what's happening around the sports world. Again, we call them the Daily Wire.
Buzz.
Robert Saleh, in case you missed it, fired, F-I-R-E-D, by the New York Jets after a 2-3 start.
His ass was grass and Aaron Rodgers was the lawnmower.
I mean, come on. They said bye to Robert Saleh. Again, you and I both think he'll end up somewhere. He's a good coach. He got the Aaron Rodgers treatment. Also today, when it comes to high school football, we've had several questions on the show today already about high school football. The South Carolina High School League Executive Committee voted today to push the playoffs back 1 week and extend the regular season to give time for the games missed. We'll get more into that coming up at 6 p.m. It was a long meeting, but they did reach a decision. Georgia wide receiver Colby Young was arrested early Tuesday morning on misdemeanor charges of battery and assault of an unborn child, according to Athens-Clarke County jail records. There's a special place for people like that, Diesel, is all I have to say.
Yeah, this is a pretty bad situation. His accuser, I guess an ex-girlfriend, alleged that she went over to his apartment to talk about the relationship, found him on the phone with another woman, and that he forcibly removed her from his room.
Wow.
Grabbed her from behind, squeezing her torso and her abdomen tightly. He's a freshman, but he's not like a nobody on this team, Cole. He has 11 catches, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns on the season, and this marks the 7th arrest in 6 months among Georgia players.
Kirby Smart, man, they've got it going on. Players just they recruit the absolute best, absolute pieces of what.
Got that dog in them.
Yeah, literally. Coach Steve Sarkisian expects Quinn Ewers to be ready to start when number 1 Texas plays number 18 Oklahoma in the All-State Red River rivalry on Saturday in Dallas, but the Longhorns will continue to monitor his recovery through the week. That's big, Diesel, because we talked about this rivalry going Oklahoma's way as of late. Arch Manning hadn't done a bad job, though, and now we get Quinn Ewers back.
Hey, if you're a Texas fan and the way that Arch Manning has performed while Quinn was out, it's got to give you a lot of hope and stuff to cheer for the future. Arch is good.
It's good, man.
Arch is very good.
It's good. Really good situation. People panic about having 2 good quarterbacks, but they're in a pretty good situation, if I might say so myself. Diesel, the Chiefs defeated the Saints last night, 26-13. They stay alive as one of the only 2 teams in the NFL that remain undefeated. The other one, the Minnesota Vikings. Sound the horn, Vikings and Chiefs, only ones undefeated. Over the weekend, locally, a little local flavor here. The Wofford Terriers lost to Western Carolina 27-21, and I believe that was the game that had no fans. Is that right, up in Western?
That's
we touched
correct.
on that last week.
Western chose not to allow fans into the stadium because they didn't want to affect recovery efforts.
Right. Of course, obviously the right decision there. Furman defeated the Citadel 17-16. You heard that game. That's right here on the Fan Upstate. Really good game there, Diesel, and Furman back in the win column. They needed that one really bad.
Citadel's always a tough team to beat.
They are, man.
The Service Academy is a disciplined football team.
North Greenville, right here in the Upstate, defeated Benedict 38-21, and Anderson lost to Catawba 44-41. Anderson's first season having football. The Memphis USF game that would have been played Friday has been moved to Saturday due to Hurricane Milton. Cincinnati UCF and North Texas FAU are not expected to be impacted. I don't know how, because this storm, Diesel, keeps growing. It doesn't look good for these people that are in Florida.
I mean, they're looking at it as the weather is not going to impact the game. Now, if there's just total devastation all over that state, depending on where the track of this storm goes, they're looking at it basically going straight over Tampa.
Sure.
And they're not expecting it to do wholesale damage to other parts of the state. But then again, Cole, you and I have seen radar images of this thing.
Man.
It's gigantic. It's very, very powerful. And it has the ability to do a lot of damage across.
It really does,
Florida.
man. And it's not good. We know We just had one in the upstate, but this one looks like it's going to be destructive. And then last but not least, there is now a donation link on the fanupstate.com to the Salvation Army that funds emergency assistance, food, water supplies, emotional and spiritual support, and long-term recovery. Also, we'll get back into this a little bit later in the show, but Furman has announced, Diesel, they're doing Fill the Den Bin Friday and Saturday. They're needing all kind of items, non-perishables, coolers, baby wipes, flashlights, a really cool thing that's going on in partnership with Ingles Markets. We'll get into that later in the show as well. But those are your daily wires.
When we come back, Cole, it is time for you Tolos to take over these airwaves. You got something you want to gripe about? You got a take that you haven't had a chance to get onto the show? This is your opportunity to take over these Fan Upstate airwaves. 844-326-3663 is how you can go ahead and call in right now. Be first in line on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone line, and we'll get to our Tolo takeover next. Opinions wanted, Tolos. This is your chance right here, right now, 5 o'clock every Tuesday on the show. It is the Tolo Takeover. You got something to complain about? Do it. You got something you want to gas up because something's going great in your life? Do it. This is your segment every single Tuesday to call in on our phone lines and have your voice be heard. The floor is yours, as they say. The renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663 is the call-in line. You can also text us at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. We love text messages, but we love phone calls better, Cole, because it's spicier. Right?
It is.
It's spicier when we hear it in your voice, because you may complain differently from the way everyone else complains.
And I have something, and I know you do as well, but I have something that I'm going to gripe about. We've had some really good ones to start us off over these last few weeks. And yeah, I'm talking to you, Stephen Webb, talking to you, Tom, and let's see, Rick. Rick's had some good ones. So if you are up for the challenge, as Diesel said, get ready, because we're coming to you, 844 fan phone. But I'll tell you what, I don't know if you Tolos, even though we believe in you, I don't know if you can match what we've had so far.
Yeah, I got something to say. I saw some stuff on the internet that really got me going.
By God, if I don't get that extra cup of sauce, I'm coming back in. I ain't waiting in line. I'm going to let you know right now. I've already waited my turn. I've already went through your line. I've already did everything that I'm supposed to do.
What really ticks me off when he speaks, not because he's the Clemson football coach, but when he speaks about an ACC game, he makes it seem like it's some big ordeal. Dabo, your schedule sucks.
And I am pissed off today, okay? It took me 1 hour to get $14.65 worth of gas.
Y'all need to be fired.
Man, we've had some good ones. What did Mike say?
Mike Jones says Tolo Takeover finally got internet back last night.
Well, Mike,
It's been hell on your sex life, I'm sure, Mike.
whatever your gripe is, or if it's positive, hey, we can accept positivity too.
Yeah.
But dial us up, Mike, 844 fan phone. We've already got two on hold, 844-326-3663. And I even remember last time, Diesel, as we were going off of the Tolo Takeover, one of our Tolos said, hey, I'm a landscaper. Boy, do I have something to gripe about. I can't wait for the next Tolo Takeover.
Well, he's going to have a lot of business.
Yeah, he's probably swamped right
he's
now,
probably
right?
feeling real good right now. He's
Probably
working his
swamped.
butt off, but he's making a lot of money.
All right, I want to hear one of yours before we go to the phones, 844 fan phone, 844-326-3663. Do you have something to gripe about, Diesel?
Yeah, I'm mad at all these idiots selling generators, barely used generators on Facebook Marketplace. We just went through a massive hurricane. There will be more. Maybe this year South Carolina is spared, maybe not. We don't know, right? We don't know what's going to develop and what's going to come our way. But the question is, did you learn nothing? Did you learn nothing at all from dealing with no power after Hurricane Helene? You got to think. You went out and spent the money. You probably searched at stores all over the upstate to find a thing that could save your family, could keep your refrigerator cold, could keep your food from going bad, could keep your lights on. And you want to turn around and get rid of it the moment the sun comes back out. Like, if you want to sell it cheap, or if you want to donate it to somebody in Western North Carolina who really needs it right now, great. That's a fantastic thing to do with your generator, but don't post it on Facebook Marketplace and say, only ran it for a few hours. I know what I've got, and expect that you're going to get full retail price back out of it. That's not how it works, bro.
I'm with you there.
You buy something for $800, you have to turn around and sell that thing for like $550. You ain't getting retail back out of it.
I like that. Don't get rid of it. I like that.
You're going to need it one day.
You're going to need it. And if you don't, guess what? Generators, by the way, are used for other things besides, powering your house when a storm hits. So many ways you can use a generator.
Right.
I like that. By the way, I was in Lowe's yesterday, and Lowe's, they don't have one or two generators. They have like 1 million generators.
Yeah.
All right, we've got 3 Tolos lined up. Let's go to the phones. We still have room for 3 more as of right now. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Can we top the Tolo takeovers that we've had in the past? JD, our man, starting us off. What's up, JD?
Gentlemen, thank you for taking my call. First of all, that's part of what I wanted to complain about. Y'all have got me conditioned that I got to say thank you every time I call you guys. And when it's the Tolo takeover, I kind of want to just call and be angry for a minute. But I got to start off being all cordial and say thank you for taking my call.
You don't have to.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, no, I have
You
to.
hear about it?
Make it very clear.
Is Diesel in your DMs if you don't?
I have to thank you.
What you got for us?
And so let's go positive, though. Positive on the Tolos as well. So that was a negative about the Tolo takeover, a positive about the Tolo takeover. Yesterday, I was having a rough Monday. I did have several of you guys reach out to me and say, hey, we're here for you if you need to talk, whatever the case may be, we're here for you. So that was a positive. All right. And now we're going to go back negative again. There is a gentleman who says that South Carolina has a culture problem because we got a penalty for a player pretending to shoot the quarterback after he sacked him, which granted, I don't condone that behavior, but you can't call it a culture problem when you've got, like Diesel just mentioned, or Cole just mentioned, 7 arrests in 6 months at Georgia. That is a culture problem. I would say it's more of a discipline problem for the Gamecocks.
Can we know who the gentleman is?
Well, he used to work at this radio station, but no, I will not call him by name.
Okay. What's up?
Greg
That
McKinney?
gentleman he's been blasted this, and I'm telling you, the Angry Birds, they came for him.
Surely not.
Oh, you don't say.
I told him, I was like, hey, man, not a good idea. And sure enough, everybody's been, retweeting, requoting, all that stuff. And then lastly, let me leave you guys with this one. So in that fantasy league, I told you guys I was 0-4 in last week. I officially got kicked out of that league for money. I went to check my score yesterday evening, and bam, it was gone.
Booted.
And so for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't care to talk to this particular person, but hey, y'all get to some other Tolos. I'm ashamed of you guys for not calling sooner. Y'all be better, dang it.
All right,
Hey,
we appreciate it.
Appreciate you, JD. I say good riddance. Anybody wants to kick you out of the league, good riddance.
Good
They
riddance.
can suck it.
I'll tell you what, though. That would be kind of weird. You're paid to be in a league. I don't know. Texter says Aaron Rodgers sucking doesn't constitute Robert Saleh being fired. Is that what you're sounding off about, Texter from the 262 on today's Tolo takeover?
Aaron Rodgers' punk ass shouldn't be able to get anyone fired.
Unfortunately, I agree with you, by the way. Unfortunately, I guess he has enough power to do so. Back to the phones we go. We've got 3 more Tolos lined up, 844. What do you want to sound off about? 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. I still have something that I have to sound off on that it bothers the absolute crap. But Tolos first today. Let's go to DB. What's up, DB?
Hey, guys. Hope you're having a good day. Finally got the first tree off my house, and the tarps are up. Found 3 holes in the roof, so yay!
Ooh.
But but my take or my beef or whatever you want to call it, it's light, but it's there. The grocery stores, at least the ones nearest me, are completely out of frozen pizzas, except for cauliflower pizzas.
Oh.
So if you are the grocery store and nobody will buy your cauliflower pizzas, maybe you should stop carrying.
Yeah,
I like that.
They're frozen. They don't go bad. You can order like a box of them, whatever the minimum order is of cauliflower pizza, and it's going to be there for like 2 weeks. Nobody's coming in to buy those things.
DB says
it's going to be there for 2 years.
DB says if a natural disaster has hit your area and no one's rushing to buy your cauliflower pizza, don't sell them.
Yeah, if the world is ending and people still don't want to eat your cauliflower pizza, stop stocking it. And I went by Danby's house this weekend, Cole, to drop off the generator. He let me borrow. Dan, I don't know if you want to report this on the air, But what was it you said to me right before we left? There's an item sitting in your driveway that you wish was parked somewhere different.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a travel trailer that would have been completely smashed and totaled out if I hadn't moved it to prep it to sell. Oops.
Wow.
He wanted it to be smashed and get paid out by
Yeah,
by
I just want to
insurance
get out
for
from
it.
underneath it. I'm not trying to make money on it. I
DB,
just want to be out from underneath.
real quick, have you ever tried cauliflower pizza before?
No.
I hadn't either.
How do you know it's not delicious? How
Have
do
you
you know it
tried it?
doesn't? No.
I hadn't either.
I'm just going to venture to say the unbought cauliflower pizzas tell you something.
Thanks for the
I
call,
don't need to
DB.
try it because no one else is trying it
We
later.
appreciate that. That's DB 844 fan phone, the Tolo takeover 844-326-3663. Rick, if you're still there, if you're still listening, I did lose you, Rick. I don't know if it was on our end or your end.
Rick calls back.
Rick, we always know you're the Tolos love hearing from you, Rick. You've always got something funny to say. So hit us back, Rick, 844 fan phone, 844-326-3663. I'll get to mine in a few minutes, but Tom's been waiting patiently, just as Rick does when he calls Diesel. I know Tom's going to have something interesting to say as well. What's up, Tom?
Hey, guys, I know when I called the other day, I was not happy with Shane Beamer, okay? But the more I've thought about it, is there a better time than now to go into Tuscaloosa and pull out a win? I don't think so. The Gamecocks are going to do what Vanderbilt did, okay? The Gamecocks are going to go into Tuscaloosa just like they did on October 2nd, 2004, and they're going to leave Tuscaloosa with a win. Mark it down. The Gamecocks are going to win in Tuscaloosa on Saturday.
Woo!
Tom, that win is old enough to vote. It's a year away from being old enough to buy alcohol. You got to stop crowing about a 20-year-old win, my friend.
Hey, we all know what happened in 2004, 2010. Hey, that means we're due. The Gamecocks are due to beat Alabama. And, it only happens once every 10 or 20 years. So, Alabama, you better be ready. You might have your elephants, but the Gamecocks are going to bring their trunks, and they're going to leave with a big old win. Go Gamecocks!
Wow. Wow is all I can say there.
Tom. Yeah, if you're counting your wins over Alabama by the seasons the cicadas come out, you're in a rough spot.
He said we're due.
We're due. We're due.
It's been Diesel fusses because it's been 20 years. Tom says, no, that just means we're due. I don't know how Tom gets the energy that he has. It's kind of like Rob Brown in the mornings, but
I know how Rob Brown gets the energy he has. It's the 3 giant cans of Monster Energy drink in the trash can right now, and every single day that shows how Rob Brown gets his energy in the morning.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good, Tom. I'm not going to lie to you. Pretty good. I don't know if you're due or you're just an idiot, but we'll find out, right? We'll find out. All right, back to the phones. We have 2 more Tolos on hold. If you want to get in, time's running out. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. It's your chance to take over these airways. Let's go to Steven and then Rick. Steven, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Steven.
I have a more serious tone for you today. During the time I couldn't get into you guys because Verizon decided to roll back a lot of their cell phone coverage, apparently, because it was being overwhelmed and couldn't get any cell phone service. But that's neither here nor there. I had this gripe last week. If you are, let's say, Triangle K gas station, and the lights are out for everybody, and you're standing outside selling your case of water, your 12-pack of waters for $10 a pack, you are a jackass.
How's that? That's not even legal.
That's what I have to say.
Prouse guy,
they were doing it legal. And it's the Triangle K over here in Spartanburg, at Duncan area, Reedville Road, and 290.
You should have called that price gouging number. Why didn't you call the number?
I think I'm going to still.
Okay,
I don't think there's a time limit on that, but
you have to be able to document it.
Cars after cars.
Yeah,
There's cars after cars after cars that were pulling up, and we'd walk over towards where they are, go to grab it, and they'd say $10.
So here's, by the way, Steven, here's how you do that. You take a photo. I hope you had a photo of the price, the sign that said $10, or audio documentation or something of somebody saying $10. You can email that to pricegouging@SCAG. That would be South Carolina Attorney General.gov.
Oh, that was my more serious take on this thing, and it's also a public announcement. Stay away from Triangle K over there if you can, because they're just a bunch of jackasses.
Thanks for that, Stephen. All right, we've got two more, and then we're going to have to run to break because we have Jack Veltry of Gamecock Central up next. Rick, what's up, brother?
What's going on?
You, man.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it no more, okay?
Why?
I'm sitting I go in a restaurant to eat in downtown Greer. There's 3 parking spaces in front of the restaurant. I take up one, a Corvette, brand new Corvette takes up another, and there's an empty space. I'm eating my meal. All of a sudden, somebody that knows me comes over and said, "Your car is sitting on top of the Corvette." I said, "What?" I go outside. They have pushed my car on top of a brand new Corvette. Right. The other car, yes, I'm telling the truth. And let me tell you, there was a girl that was in the restaurant. I'm not going to mention the restaurant because I don't want to get them in trouble. But the restaurant had served this girl 8 shots. She went outside, got in her car, brand new Camaro, pushed my car, totaled all 3 cars. This isn't a bad part. I mean, that's a bad part, but that's not why I'm mad as hell. We got footage of the wreck from the restaurant. I think it's going to be a simple thing to go to the insurance company, get my money for the car. It wasn't a great car. I just paid it off a month before. Okay? I go to the insurance company. They give me $1,500 for a $6,000 car.
Rick, I'm having a hard time picturing the physics of what you're describing. Is there any way you can send us this footage?
Actually, there is footage, and I don't have it on my phone, but I will send it.
Diesel at thefanupstate.com.
Because I don't believe you.
Yeah, Diesel at thefanupstate.com.
People are probably listening that know what happened.
Okay.
But that's not the bad part. So the guy in the Corvette, they offer him $37,000. They offer me $1,500. I can't replace my car for that. So this is not the bad. I mean, they get her for DUI. She's double the limit. This happened in Greer.
Okay.
So, hey, she's going to have to go to court, okay? Court date came up yesterday. She wanted a jury trial. Now we don't know when the court case is going to come up. And I've missed a lot of work, okay?
I'm going to be honest with you, Rick. Rick, we're going to have to let you go because we're right up against the break. I don't have a clue what you're talking about.
I'm fascinated and shocked.
Yeah.
He says it's true, though.
Quickly, let's go to one more.
All right, one
quickly,
more.
You got 30 seconds, Johnny. Apologize for the short time frame. What you got for us?
I'll make it quick since I got 30 seconds. That girl should be able to handle more than 8 shots and drove. I've done it. Not really. But either way, this is what we need. South Carolina needs to do away with Shane Beamer. I got a guy who you call right now. He doesn't have a job. He's won a national championship. He's won a conference championship. And he's coached the Heisman-winning quarterback, and he's used to beating up on Clemson. Who is he?
You tell us.
It's Jimbo Fisher. It's Jimbo Fisher, baby. Give him a call. You give him a call. And you do it after we get our tails whooped against Alabama this week. And I don't know what Tom's smoking, but I'm on my way to go get some. See you guys.
Are we sure that Johnny's not Mike Gundy?
Oh,
I've done it
dear
lots of
God.
times.
That was classic. Tolo takeover Diesel. Listen, I said it. The
Better
first
every
one's going to
week.
be hard to beat, but that, to your point, that was good.
Yeah.
Next
great.
Tuesday, mark on your calendar. We'll do it again. Jack Veltry. I'm just at a loss for words. Sorry. I just try to process what happened. Jack Veltry, Gamecock Central, joins us to talk sports next. Time to talk a little South Carolina Gamecock football. Jack Veltry, good friend of ours, good friend of the show. He is with Gamecock Central. Check out his work. We'll tell you how in just a few minutes from now. Jack obviously covers South Carolina Gamecock football, but Jack, am I hearing this right? Is it baseball season? I mean, you're covering baseball scrimmages. Paul Maneri, new ball coach over on the Diamond. How are things looking early on for this fall baseball team?
Well, Cole, I appreciate you having me on, buddy. But yeah, man, I just actually got back from a baseball scrimmage probably about 20 minutes ago. 14 runs scored today, if you can believe that. Here's something even crazier you can't probably believe, but Talmadge LeCroy. I mean, you remember how bad he was in the infield last year and how much he struggled at the plate. He's leading the team right now with 3 homers and 7 RBIs, just homered for the second straight day in a row. So things are going well for the Gamecocks right now on the Diamond. And, you wish football was the same thing right now.
Jack Veltry, Gamecock Central, joins us here on the Fan Upstate Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Jack, what's the word coming down about any discipline for Dylan Stewart after not one but 2 incidents of mock executions on the field? One directed at Jackson Dart, one directed at his own teammates. What's Shane Beamer going to do about this?
Yeah, so Shane spoke with the media earlier today, and from what I gathered from what he had to say, they did talk with him, and there was punishment. He didn't dive into what it is. He did say that it's, like people want, not, tarring and feathering Dylan Stewart in 5 points or anything. I think I had that quote right, but they took care of business in-house, and they kept it that way. And look, it's a rough situation, right? Because Dylan's just turned 18-year-old kid recently, and he's a freshman in college. It's a cool thing to do, I guess, to, act like you're shooting a gun at someone. I don't know what the deal is there. But, obviously the coaches were upset about it. Dylan was upset about it after the fact. Apparently his mom was very, upset just with everything that happened with the backlash and stuff that her son got, which I can totally understand because social media is a dark place sometimes. And, people, live and die by losses, unfortunately. So it's a tough situation, but it seems like they've handled it well and that they're keeping it in-house and they're moving on, and Dylan's going to learn from it and be better.
Well, that's good to hear. My opinion, if the mom's upset from backlash, maybe she should be upset for the son. That's just my opinion. I get your point. Social media is a dark place at times. But getting to the field where the actual game was played, not the fake shootings by Dylan Stewart, Jack, but it's very interesting when you look at what happened. I guess I jinxed South Carolina on Friday. That was my biggest concern, my biggest worry was that we were going to see very soon this South Carolina offense just kind of stall out. And stalling out's the only word that I can use, or words rather, to describe what I saw on Saturday from that Dow Loggins offense. How would you describe it?
Oh, man, the offense was pitiful on Saturday. I don't think there's no way to really sugarcoat it and be nice about what happened on Saturday because it was straight up awful. I mean, look, you only scored 3 points. You were, once again, not good enough on third downs. Even fourth downs, you weren't good enough. You had so many issues in the game. Lenore Sellers, I think, missed on some throws that most times he should be able to make. And that's a problem. The run game, I know they keep saying it was good, but I mean, was it really that impressive? I mean, they got some decent little chunk plays, but nothing that was better than what they had before. So look, they made so much progress, I feel like, in each of these first 4 games, but everything that they did good in those games kind of was just washed away by what they did in this last game against Ole Miss. It was just far from what we've been seeing over that first month of the season.
Jack, I've never coached football. I don't claim to be smart enough to even diagnose a whole lot of football. But, if you wanted to compare what we saw on Saturday, for example, to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what's the bottom rung, the first most fundamental issue that we saw out of that South Carolina game that has to be cleaned up, not only going to Alabama, but for the rest of the season? What's that core thing that has to be addressed first?
I think it's got to be penalties, right? Because game after game, we see this cycle of South Carolina committing a lot of penalties. A lot of them are, look, outside the LSU game where some of the calls were questionable, I feel like the penalties have been a lot of South Carolina's own doing with offsides, false starts, pass interference, just a lot of bad penalties on their part. And it's impacting their games. And then after each of these games, we'll hear Shane Beamer and the coaches and the players talk about, the penalties need to be cleaned up. We got to be better. We got to coach better. We got to do this. We got to do that. But it's been the same thing every single game. And look, I know it's easier said than done. I'm not a coach either, so I don't know what goes on a daily basis. But there's got to be something done differently to correct those penalties. Now, today, Beamer did say during practice that, for defense's sake, because you had 4 offsides penalties, the coaches were like clapping to kind of indicate, like, when an offense is trying to do a hard count or something, they're clapping. So they were kind of mimicking that a little bit, making sure the defense doesn't jump off sides. And I think that's the big thing. And then also just the unsportsmanlike penalties on, like, Dylan Stewart and stuff. I know there's been other ones this year, but you got to limit those. So anything South Carolina control penalty-wise, they got to clean up, because obviously it's impacting the way these games go in most cases. And look, I know Shane did say, he made this whole statement today that the 3 most penalized teams in the SEC last year had finished with 31 wins combined. So I get it, but South Carolina's in a different place compared to those teams that probably had penalties like Alabama, your Tennessees of the world and stuff like that, your Georgias. South Carolina has to be better because they are not as fortunate as those bigger teams, because South Carolina's only off to a 3-2 start this season.
You can follow him on Twitter at Jack T. Veltry. That's Veltri. Again, at Jack T. Veltry, staff writer for Gamecock Central with On 3 Sports, covering football, men's basketball, and baseball. Jack, I've asked this question of a lot of people over the years, and I don't know that I've landed on an answer. But just from you, hearing what Shane Beamer said when it comes to discipline and penalties, who does that start with? The players or the staff?
In terms of
correcting them, like, is it on the players to get better, or is it on the staff? Because I've heard both, right, from coaches saying, it's the players that have to be more disciplined, but I've also heard that it's coaching as well.
I think it's a mixture of both, if I'm being honest. Look, the perspective I see it from is that, the players, it's on the players ultimately on the field to make sure they don't jump off sides or do anything ridiculous or anything. But at the same time, it's also like the coaches are the ones that are, enforcing, like, they're teaching the players to do, what they're doing. And, when you see, it's kind of, it's just I don't know how to explain it really, but, it's like the mentee kind of messing up. And the mentor has to take the fall for it, essentially. So that's why I would say it's probably a mixture of both.
Jack, I'm not a big fan of a lot of fans calling for, play calling issues, because, again, I'm not a coach. It's difficult for me to really dissect what's going on over the minutia of a game. And if a coach is calling a play, I have to assume there's a reason why they're calling that play. But once this thing felt like it started to get out of control, I started paying attention to what South Carolina was doing on first down. And man, I saw a lot of zone read on first down. Given what you know of their relationship, of Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins' relationship, how much control does Shane have on Dowell's play calling? Does he influence it, or does he kind of leave Dowell alone to do his job?
Well, I'm not sure, to be honest, Cole, because, I'm not in the room with those guys. But I will say, ultimately Shane is the head coach, and it's on him he has the final say on everything. So, look, I'm sure he trusts Dowell's judgment on what plays to call and stuff, because, as we've heard a million times now, Dowell coached in the NFL and stuff. He's been an offensive coordinator for many different teams and stuff. So you've got to have some idea of what he's doing and knows the plays to call. But at the end of the day, Shane is also a part of those conversations and stuff. And so, look, if there's a play that Shane would rather things works better, I'm sure that it's up to him on what to call in those situations. But I also feel like, without any knowledge on this, I'm sure Dowell has some creative freedom to kind of call what he wants at times too.
Jack, when you look at just putting the past in the past and looking out the windshield instead of the rear view mirror, Alabama also presents some challenges. You talk about the team, the talent they have. Oh, and not to mention the fact they just lost to Vandy. So they're going to be focused. What's the belief from the coaches and the players that you've talked to in terms of how they feel after a loss, South Carolina after a loss as well, but going on the road and having a big challenge in front of them?
I think they feel fine, honestly. I mean, we only spoke to 3 players today, so didn't get a full sense of like how everyone else is doing. But from the 3 main ones we talked to Demetrius Knight, Lenora Sellers, Rocket Sanders. They all seem locked in on Alabama. They know what they got to do. They know last week wasn't good enough. And Shane even spoke in detail about all the mistakes that happened on Saturday. Knows it's not acceptable and stuff. And, he took accountability for it, which, in this day and age is kind of tough for some people to do. But I do think they understand what went wrong on Saturday and that it needs to be corrected and fixed. And look, I don't know if it's going to essentially happen against Alabama, and maybe not by South Carolina's own doing, but just by the fact that Alabama is going to be coming in really mad and pissed off that they lost and more focused in and playing more like the Alabama Crimson Tide football we know and from, the Nick Saban days and even now. But I do think South Carolina controls a lot of what it can do. I just think they really got to go out there and execute and limit the mistakes that they make.
Jack Veltry, Gamecock Central, joins us here on the Fan Upstate. We all saw the clip in the post-game press conference where Shane looked, just visibly frustrated with all of the alleged fake injuries going on from Ole Miss. To your knowledge, has there been any follow-up with the league on that? Has there been any I haven't seen anything from Lane Kiffin or Ole Miss in regards to that. Anything coming out from that at all?
No, I haven't seen anything either, Cole. And I think the real it's tough to get a gauge on this because I've had these conversations before about this. It's hard to really judge whether these injuries are legit or not. I am under the belief that the injuries that happened on Saturday, for the most part, were all just kind of fake, I guess you could say. And it's kind of Bush League, in my opinion, to fall on the ground and come back up 10 seconds later and go out for a play and then come back in. I just think it's ridiculous. We'll find out kind of with the injury report tomorrow. Not that it matters anymore for South Carolina, but it's a bigger college football issue that we're seeing nowadays with teams kind of saying like, hey, like go to the ground, and that way the play can stop, and that way we get time to basically have a free timeout. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. When we get the injury report for Ole Miss when they play LSU this week, kind of have a better idea. But I'm expecting, because Lane Kiffin's really just a troll and stuff, it'll be a laundry list of guys that are questionable and all that stuff, just like last week coming into that game against South Carolina.
Jack, great stuff as always, man. Really appreciate you taking time to hop on with us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, Cole. Thank you for having me on as always.
That's Jack Veltry of Gamecock Central. I do like Diesel about Jack. Some media out there, I'm not throwing shade. Some media members don't like to step on toes. They kind of like to do this right here, the whole dance. But Jack's not that. Jack just shoots straight. That's what I like.
The question is, who do you feel like you owe as a media member? Do you feel like you need to keep the university happy? Do you feel like you need to keep the athletic director, who essentially says, yes, you can come talk to my athletes, happy? Do you need to keep the head coach happy so that if you do sit down in front of him, he'll actually give you solid answers? I mean, because we know that coaches are human beings. They can be petty, and they can say, you haven't been nice to us in your articles over the past year. Why should I be nice to you? Why should I even take your interviews? Or why should I not just shut down your questions with boilerplate basic answers? Or do you need to keep your listeners happy, your readers, your subscribers happy? Who do you really owe in this situation? And the question is, can you still make your listeners and subscribers and your readers happy without necessarily having the warmest, best relationship with the university? And if you can do that, if you can still provide them with the content they want, they need, and they expect from you without sucking up to the university all the time, I think that's who you actually owe. You don't owe the university anything. That is a multi-million-dollar entity that you're trying to make a living off of by reporting on their student athletes and the comings and goings of their various programs.
I think it's a tough line to walk at times, especially with like high school football. It's a little bit more of a tough line to walk. But Diesel, I just think at the end of the day, you have to be fair, right? And I've always told the coaches, high school, college, that I know personally and cover, look, Am I going to be critical? Sure. But I'm at least going to be fair, and I think that's all that matters.
Well, it's certainly different when you're talking about covering the NFL, covering college football, getting down to the high school level. Because when you're covering the larger and larger sides of this sport, it's easier and easier to do the job without direct access, being in the locker room, talking to the coach every day on a week in and week out basis. One question I didn't get to ask Jack Cole that I'll ask of you: does South Carolina cover the 21.5 that they are currently down dogs to Alabama by?
Ugh.
Do they cover the 20? Yes or no question. Tolo's on the stream
right
well.
now?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so either.
I really don't.
71307. You can text in, start your text with keyword fan, or jump in the comment section of the stream. Does South Carolina cover the 21.5 point spread? I know what Tom is going to say. Tom is going to say they cover and they win.
You mean yell?
Yeah, he's going to yell it. Yeah, he's going to. He speaks in all caps.
He does.
That is absolutely sure. When we come back, Cole, let's draft the best tailgate menu. How about this? We're going 6 rounds. I'm going to give you 2 main courses, 2 sides,
I like it,
and 2 desserts. Who can draft the best game day menu? That's next on the Fan Upstate. We established a couple days ago, a week ago, that you like the over-the-top tailgates.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm talking tables and generators and TVs and satellite dishes and
Speaking of generators,
so much stuff. I don't like to do it that way, but I do like to eat at my tailgates. I do like to have a good array of food at my tailgate. So, Cole, right here, right now, you and I are going to draft. We have 6 rounds.
Ooh.
So you get 2 each, 2 main courses, 2 side dishes, and 2 desserts. You want to flip an imaginary coin to see who goes first?
Yeah, I don't have a coin on me.
I'll do it right here. Flip, call in the air. Oh man, it's tails. How do
Can we get a reflip?
All right, I'm gonna go round number 1.
All right, I'm ready.
Round number 1, chicken wings. Chicken wings as my first main course.
Oh God.
Chicken wings.
This is a main course.
Main course. I mean, you don't have to go main course first if you don't want to.
No. I can't. And I get 2 of these.
You get 2 of these.
I'm going double. Double on the wings. Can I do that?
You can't go double on
Why?
wings because I already drafted it. It's a draft.
Oh, I can't take wings
No,
at all?
you can't take wings.
Oh,
it's a draft.
You gotta be kidding.
It's a draft.
So I'm stuck with
everything else.
Ribs.
Okay.
How about
ribs.
that?
Okay.
Chicken wings is a good one. That's
Chicken
hard
wings.
to beat.
Yeah, I'm going burgers as my cheeseburgers.
See, I think that's a little overused. I think that's overused.
Yeah, but
course.
it's a crowd favorite for
I know,
a reason.
it's easy, right?
Crowd favorite for a reason.
I'm going ribs 1 and then other main course for the draft for the tailgate. Oh God, this is good. Let's go. Ooh, God,
running out of time.
I know. Okay, I'll go hot dogs.
Dogs.
Just
you want dogs over
brats.
Oh, you got it at the last
brats.
second. Okay, I'm okay.
Thank you for
I'm with
accepting
you.
my change. Brats and ribs. That's a good 2 main course right there.
So brats and ribs, not bad. I'm going wings and burgers. I'm a man of the people. What can I say?
Okay.
For my side number 1, Cole. Side number 1. I'm gonna go very, very simple. I'm gonna go Doritos.
Okay, I'm going potato salad. Little tailgate potato salad out there. Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
Side number 2, I'm going barbecue baked beans.
Oh, that's good. I was thinking that, I really love potato salad and baked beans paired together. So I'll go, because you went baked beans. Now, side doesn't count as like a shareable, or does it?
It's anything you want it to be. Side can be anything.
All right, I'll tell you what then.
There's a lot of options.
If that's the case, I'm going another meat for a side.
No, that's not a side.
Why?
A meat is a main dish.
The little wieners?
Cocktail weenies?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
I'll give you cocktail weenies.
Yes. Oh, I'm winning this. There's
Cocktail
no
weenies.
cocktail weenies
Okay.
as a side.
Now we go to desserts. I'm going brownies.
Okay. What kind? Oh, never mind.
Doesn't matter. You can put anything you want in the brownies.
Oreo pie.
Oreo pie.
Oh, I've done it. This thing's over. I've
Oreo
got you.
pie.
I've got
Brownies for my second dessert. I'm gonna say like a strawberry shortcake.
Ooh, it's a good one. It's a good one. I will go crowd pleaser chocolate chip cookies there.
Chocolate chip
easy,
cookies.
right?
Okay, we have our 6-item
won.
course. Tolos, who won? Best menu. I say wings, cheeseburgers.
Okay.
Doritos, barbecue baked beans, brownies, and a strawberry shortcake.
Shit.
Cole says ribs, brats. Now we beef ribs or
just regular pork ribs.
Pork ribs,
Yeah,
pork
the
ribs,
normal ones, yeah.
brats. Man, the cholesterol at your tailgate
Oh,
is
yeah.
unreal.
Yeah.
Potato salad, cocktail weenies, Oreo pie, and chocolate chip cookies.
I should have went donuts instead of cookies, but I didn't
it's
think
too
about
late.
it until just now.
It's too late.
But I think I still win. That's
wins?
a good tailgate menu. Are you kidding me? Ribs, brats, potato salad, cocktail weenies.
Dan B says Doritos and beans are good sides.
Oh, Texture says all caps. Is this Tom? I don't know if it is. 449. Maybe other people text in all caps too. I'm going to Cole's tailgate, says the Texture.
I went crowd pleaser. Ribs are a pain in the butt, though.
Yeah, they're so good though.
It takes so long to make good ribs.
Hey, you didn't say to cook them. I can buy them, right?
Well, if you buy them, they're not going to be as good. You know that.
That's true.
You
All
know
right.
that.
We're going to get into the high school football conversation. There was a huge decision made today. I have audio from Jerome Singleton as well. We'll get into what the high school football season looks like now after Hurricane Helene. Your thoughts as well 71307 is the text line. Start your text with the word fan. Diesel, have you ever been in a meeting that lasts like an hour and a half, and at the very end of the meeting, you guys decide what to do, and you walk out of the meeting thinking, man, that could have been a 5-minute meeting? You ever had one of those?
Oh, God, yeah. So many times. It's like we're all social in this business, right? We all want to sit around and BS and talk too much. It's like, I just want to.
Let's just get to the point.
You get to the point.
Let's decide
this thing.
Well, that's what we had today. The South Carolina High School League Executive Committee. Everybody has to share their opinion. Everybody on the committee has to give, their take. And most of the committee, the people on the committee, in my opinion, should be on the committee. However, there are a few that after today's meeting, Diesel, and I don't want to call them out by name because that's kind of just a douche thing to do. But there are some today on the executive committee of the South Carolina High School League that I question what they're doing on that thing, because this is how it went today, Diesel. For you, for those that were not in the meeting that don't know, Hurricane Helene caused some damage, and we hadn't had high school football in quite some time, right? So I'll give a very brief synopsis of what happened during the meeting. The meeting started with the executive committee and its members. Diesel, a motion has to be presented in order for a vote to be held. Long story short, the very first motion was to extend high school football season by 1 week and axe a week of the playoffs. So it would go from a 5-week playoff to a 4-week playoff. That was the first motion. Most of the executive committee was very against that motion. So long story short, they voted on the first motion. It got shot down. There were more no's than there were yeses, right? Second motion, after a bunch of continued conversation happens. The second motion is set in place for the executive committee to extend the regular season, because there's most teams, Diesel, have missed now 2 games during this course of the hurricane. So the second motion is to expand the regular season, leave the playoffs as is, not cut that playoff game, and push the state championship back a week. Obviously, you have venues where the state championships are held that make that a little bit challenging. And I do have some audio from Jerome Singleton when he addressed the media today, Diesel. But the second motion, long story short, of pushing it back, giving them 1 week plus, pushing the playoff back as well, that motion was passed. So as of this morning, the executive committee passed a motion to extend high school football season by 1 week, and they will not axe any of the postseason. It will push the state championship back to the weekend of the 12th of December instead of the very first weekend of December. A lot of teams in the upstate, especially toward Aiken as well, Diesel, missed 2 games because of Hurricane Helene, right? The night it hit, and then last week. So now at least they have a week at the end of the season to build in some time to play those games. For example, most teams who have missed 2 games will have to either decide to axe one of those games they missed or cram 2 games into 1 week. So that's a synopsis of what happened today in terms of the high school league expanding the regular season.
Does it feel like they just overcomplicated a situation they didn't need to overcomplicate, where they kind of took a half measure instead of pushing it back 2 weeks to give everyone time to make up all the games that they missed?
Yeah.
They just took a half measure and only pushed it back 1 week. Who else is using these venues on Friday nights?
Well, I do believe it was asked about that today in the executive league meeting, and Jerome Singleton addressed the media, and I'll have that audio shortly. But in 2016, they pushed it back 2 weeks. This year, they did not elect to push it back 2 weeks. The South Carolina High School League had some options and suggestions for the executive committee. The executive committee, again, initially wanted to axe one of those playoff games, so it didn't have to be moved back at all in terms of the actual state championship. But they did. Perfect world, I would have preferred it be 2 weeks, but they did not want to do that. It wasn't discussed a lot this morning, but here is what Jerome Singleton of the South Carolina High School League, the commissioner, had to say to the media today after this was all said and done. This press conference here was at about 2:30, addressing the media after the executive committee's decision of the South Carolina High School League.
Thank you. Appreciate this opportunity. Good afternoon, everybody listening. The exec committee met today and made some decisions on how we were going to address the impact of Hurricane Helene and the effect that it had on South Carolina and our fall sports season. So they looked at all of the contests that we were going to have in the fall sports season, playoffs and regular season, and made some decisions on how we will adjust to that. Most of them involved adding an additional week to the regular sports season. And after that, everything kind of took care of itself. Now, there's a few that didn't require any adjustment, but most of them, once we added an additional week to the regular season, it kind of took care of all the challenges that could possibly come up from that.
So then they will open it up to the floor, to the media.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Dr.
For
Singer, for giving us that quick. We did have some questions from some members about media, and I will start with Kevin Bilodeau from Live 5 Sports. He asked if you can explain the timeline, how the timeline is going to work for the football season for teams that didn't miss any games due to the storm, i.e., will they have a bye week during the new week of the regular season that was approved today?
Well, because the regular season has been.
By the way, it's a good question, Diesel. What that media member is asking, hey, for the rest of the state who didn't miss any games, now you're adding that extra week. What are we supposed to do? Okay.
Extended 1 week, which is a great question. That does provide an opportunity for schools that hadn't missed a week to have an additional week within their schedule available. What we're asking them to do is what fits best for their region, what fits best for their classification. Do they want to go back and reschedule those contests that they have left so that they don't pile up a bunch of bye weeks all in one place? They have the opportunity to sit down and figure out a new schedule of how to address that. Some may like it is. Some may say, well, if we can trade this week for this week, then we can do a bye week here. So most of it can take care of itself because of what's being allowed.
Okay, and from Cole, thank you, Dr. Singleton. From Cole Bryson,
loser, by the way,
he's with the Fan Upstate. One of his questions was, what are the other options for state championship if the South Carolina State site cannot fully staff the event?
Again, a great question. I just had a conversation with University of South Carolina State and their personnel, and they feel comfortable that they can fully staff the event.
So that's Jerome Singleton's answer, Diesel. I asked about South Carolina State, the state championship weekend being played a week later. If they couldn't staff it, what were the other options? And as you just heard him say, they're able to staff it. So even though it's pushed back, the state championship weekend from 1 to 5A is going to be held at South Carolina State.
So that is interesting, and I appreciate whoever it was who asked the question about what are the teams who didn't need a bye, who played all of their games last Friday.
Yep. Midlands.
What are they gonna do? And they now have the option to build in an extra bye in the middle of the season. What, at a time of their choosing? Is that how it works?
If they want to take a bye next week, they find out with their opponent of what they want to do.
Yeah. Do those schools, for example, have to get permission from the school they would play next week? Because you could look at that as a competitive advantage. Let's just say you had a big matchup and you can give me two lower state teams that are set to play each other a couple of weeks from now.
Sure.
And one of those teams could say, hey, we would love to have a bye the week before that game, another week to get healthy, another week to scheme, game plan, all of that. Do they have to get approval from the other school before that they would play after that? So, I mean, it just seems like a lot of moving pieces that, if I'm the head coach and the athletic director of a school with playoff aspirations, I want to say, no, I don't want to give you a bye before you play us.
Right. And they do have to both agree. Like now, let's say, for example, let's say I was playing you in 3 weeks, right? Okay, if I'm playing you and you're a really good team, Diesel, but 2 weeks from now, I do want to buy. I don't even have to talk to you about it, right?
Right. Okay.
I'll just talk to Johnny, who I'm playing in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing Diesel in 3 weeks. Hey, Johnny, I'm playing Diesel in 3 weeks.
So now you're talking about a little gamesmanship here.
Well, could be.
And then you've got that team, my team. I now have to say, ooh, who do I play in 2 weeks? I would also like a bye before I play Cole.
Yeah.
So I need to go talk to Jeff and see if Jeff will give me a bye week. But then that's just that's a lot of moving parts, and I don't know how relationships that these athletic directors and coaches have with each other might come into play here. And the question is, would they have to? Can they just do it willy-nilly at their own discretion, or do they have to submit that to the high school league?
They can do
say,
it.
I'd like to have this week off.
That's
Can you approve this?
As long as it falls within the regular season, they can do it.
Wow.
Now, if it's past that, obviously it'd have to be agreed on. So good question, though. Let's hear a few more questions of the commissioner this afternoon when he was addressing the media.
Okay, so that takes care of that question.
And by the way, this is Romanda Noble Watson, who's their director of communications. She's awesome. She's fantastic. She's the one asking the questions.
And so from Cameron Jackson with the Spartanburg Herald Journal, her question was, for the regions and teams that missed 2 games, which weeks will get made up? Is there a system on which games they make up, which ones they don't?
No, again, that's a local decision by the region as they figure out, what games they want to have counted and how they want to go about establishing who will be their qualifiers for the playoffs. They get to make those decisions themselves. It becomes more of a local decision, and we couldn't come up with one statewide answer that was going to effectively help all of them. So we allowed them to kind of work their way through this themselves. And to their credit, a lot of them have already started the process.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let me break down that question or that answer, Diesel. Basically, what they were asking there is, for those listeners out there, those Tolos that didn't understand, most everybody in the upstate that missed those 2 weeks, missed 2 games. There were a handful of teams like Burns who played that Wednesday night. Remember we played before the hurricane? Burns is only missing 1 game now because they got that game in. So they're asking, hey, if you missed 2 games, but we were only given 1 week to make them up, what do you do? It's up to them.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can decide to play both in the same week, or let's say, for example, Spartanburg and Gaffney want to play that week. Spartanburg has to call whoever they were supposed to play the other week and see if they can either cancel it, because if you don't cancel that second game, you're going to have a 7-day stretch where you play 3 games. So the next to last regular season game on a Friday, right? And you turn around the very last week of the season, that extra week, you have to play 2 games. So you'll have to play like a Thursday, Tuesday, Friday type. And that's a lot of games, 3 games in a 7-day stretch, Diesel.
I assume at this point everyone's in region play. So there's
most of them.
There's no like, hey, it's easy decision to cancel the non-region game.
Well, that's a big part of it. If it were non-region, boom, axe it, and it's no big deal. However, to your point, most everybody by now is in region play.
I could see this for some schools, maybe not all situations, but some situations coming down to a financial decision. What games are we most likely to sell the most tickets to?
Don't want to miss a gate.
Don't want to miss the gate. Don't want to miss the bigger gate. So if we expect, hey, this is Spartanburg Gaffney, we expect this to be a big gate. Yeah. We want to play this game.
And it would be.
If it's Spartanburg, give me somebody on there. East side. Spartanburg, East side. Okay, we're probably not going to sell a whole lot of tickets to that one, so let's go ahead and cancel that one.
That's 100% correct. And that's the decision that will have to be made. We don't know what those decisions will be. Again, just a few more answers from Dr. Singleton today.
During the meeting, we talked about a new system that could possibly be coming up weather-wise. And so for Fox Carolina, they asked, where does the league stand on further contingency plans if the next system or further ones affect the remainder of the season?
Another great question. We all recognize that there is another system that's out there that could have an impact. I think the exec committee was very cautious in making deliberate in making their decisions. Right now, they feel like if we move the season 1 week, that could address most things that need to be addressed as it is currently. But the whole emphasis behind it was to not change playoff opportunity if you don't have to not change playoff opportunity. So the message that came out of that is that we want to start the playoffs as we normally do. The second piece to it is to not move our dates further back than 1 week, because once we move it further back than 1 week, now we may start infringing on other sports seasons. So if we use those 2 ideas as guidelines for us, then if something else happens, whatever we decide needs to fit within those guidelines. Still have the same number of playoff teams that go to the playoff, five rounds of playoffs, and at the same time, don't go beyond one more week of regular season time to move our championships too far out of the way.
Okay, so that takes care of a couple of other questions that had come in, asking about was the 2 weeks option and things like that. So you just basically answered that. So one of the questions that came in from Lou Beziak from the state was, do you think that there will be any talk in the future about a built-in bye, kind of like the one in Georgia that you mentioned during the executive committee meeting?
So to preface his answer, Diesel, I love this, by the way. Georgia, before the season starts, they have a built-in bye week just for weather. Okay. So if they need it, they can use it. If not, they scratch it, which I love it. Yeah. Right?
So this is a good question.
Yeah.
And it may be solved by exactly what you're talking about, a built-in bye. My question for you is, do you believe this will set precedent, as in this will become the policy that if we need it, here's how we handle this situation? Or could they do a built-in bye scenario? Or do you see 5 years from now, if this happens again, us back in this exact same scenario, calling meetings, getting everybody involved, taking opinions, and kind of starting this process all over again? I mean, a built-in bye fixes it pretty neatly. Setting this up as a precedent sort of gives you a contingency plan for what to do if this happens again, but we don't necessarily need it. Or do we want to go through the rigmarole of dealing with this question every couple of years? This will happen every couple of years?
So that question was asked of Jerome Singleton, Dr. Singleton, in this meeting, and his answer, I tweeted it out, so I'm finding it right now. I thought it's fascinating. He says, pretty much, and I'm paraphrasing, adding an extra week in the future is something they can look into for future years, because I think it's a great idea. Personally, I'm talking about Cole now. Dr. Singleton goes on to say, Diesel, there's no way to know the unknown, says he will find ways to make it work as challenges continue to come up. He continues that he doesn't want to pigeonhole himself by writing new policy every time there are challenges in front of him. He says he's proud of the committee for the decision that was made this morning. It's a great question, and I know we're going to run to break in a second, but I believe that question is something that everybody wonders in terms of, hey, now that you've had this new policy or this new change, will this just be the way going forward? It's very interesting.
So you talk about 2016 was the last time a scenario like this came up. Lower State, they got hit by a hurricane in 2016.
Yeah.
Do you or can you think of other examples off the top of your head when a scenario like this has come up? Like, I understand where Jerome is coming from here. Are we creating policy for something that happens only so sporadically?
Sure.
If it happens, I mean, it very well could happen every year.
It could.
Hopefully it doesn't. And it depends on, do hurricanes come through on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights and really put high school football in question? What do you think?
Well, I see both sides. I do. And I think at the end of the day, you want to have flexibility. You do want to have flexibility. You also don't want to do what he said and pigeonhole yourself into a policy that might not happen. I really do see both sides. I know we got to run to break. Here's what Jerome Singleton said when asked about the Georgia rule of the built-in bye.
That conversation is not unique to South Carolina. That conversation has been brought up before. It just hadn't grabbed any legs as of yet. That conversation has been brought up in Georgia before, and finally this year it grabbed some legs, and it just, interestingly, they needed it. The one time that they put it in, they needed it to have that built-in week. So I think it's always something that can be placed on the table. Another chance to have the conversation again will be as we work toward putting together plans for next year.
So again, it's a fascinating conversation, but to put a bow on it, Diesel, the regular season has been extended 1 week. There will not be any reduction of the playoffs. So the state championship weekend will be 1 weekend later than it was normally supposed to be. How does that affect Burns? Burns will have the Riverside game to make up the last week of the regular season. So I hope that helped out there.
That's right. That's fascinating. And look, this is not an easy discussion. And as you said, it's and I think Jerome Singleton said in there, there's a lot of moving parts here, and this can affect winter sports. This can push some things there back, athletes who compete in both sports, potentially coaches who coach in both sports as well. So we appreciate the audio that we had and the source there, and appreciate you, Cole, for all your hard work of putting that together. When we come back, Cole, I want to ask you a very simple question. Everybody's going to have an answer to this question. What bugs you most about your team's head coach? Even if things are going well, big or small, something's going to have to bug you about how they handle themselves, about how they coach their team, all of it. What bugs you most about your team's coach? We'll talk about that next on the Fan Upstate. Cole, as much as we like to believe all of our head coaches, assistant coaches, star players on our teams, etc., are perfect angels and always do the right things, that's not necessarily true.
It's not?
Sometimes they have flaws. Believe it or not, people have flaws even in high positions
Yeah, they do.
on our favorite teams. My question for you and the Tolos in this segment, 7130, start your text with keyword fan. Call in on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. What bugs you most about your team's head coach? Very simple question. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be a little thing. It could be whatever you want it to be. What bugs you most about your team's head coach?
Be college or pro?
Whatever. I mean,
Okay.
we can go on. We can go down the list. Go hit all of them. How about that?
No, I think the first few that jump off the page to me are pro.
Yeah.
With Mike McCarthy. By the way, I'm a Mike McCarthy fan. I really am. I think he's a good coach.
Is this where you insult him? I hear you doing the insult thing where you give him a compliment first.
Yeah.
And then you trash him and then you compliment again.
How'd you know?
It's the Oreo effect.
How did you know that?
I know you like Oreo pie.
All right. So I do like him. However, I think it's a problem that a lot of people fall into in the trap, Diesel, of the Cowboys franchise. I was there. I saw it firsthand. It is very much a show. It's a show, and former players have come out and said, look, I go to Dallas. I play there for a few years. I go other places. I find out very quickly that it's not all about football in Dallas, right? During their locker rooms or during their workout sessions, giving tours, right, to people of the facilities. Other places aren't like that. The thing that bugs me about Mike McCarthy is that he fell into the trap, in my opinion, of being Jerry's boy instead of standing up for certain players and standing up for certain ideologies. I believe it's very easy to do so, but my biggest flaw with Mike McCarthy is the thing that bugs me is that he just fell in the trap so easy, man. He's one of Jerry's boys. He doesn't push back, as a lot of coaches, Jerry Jones don't do. So that would be the first one that jumps off the page for me.
I don't understand why in the NFL you don't want to push back. I know you want to stay employed and all, right?
Yeah.
But if you get fired, you walk away with a ton of money. So I think you can afford to have your integrity. Mike McCarthy's already a multi-millionaire.
He is.
Like, what does it matter to him if he gets fired, right? Like, he's still Mike McCarthy. And people will still look at it and say, oh, yeah, well, you had to deal with Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody kind of gets it. It's like if you're a head coach who gets fired by David Tepper, people look back and say, oh, well, maybe it's not your fault. Maybe it's David Tepper, right? Then again, I don't know. I don't know if Matt Rule will ever get another coaching job in the NFL. However, he did get a coaching job pretty damn quickly back in college. So Nebraska didn't seem to hold it against him. What happened in Carolina, his win-loss record, they kind of looked back on it and said, oh, well, you got a great resume. And yeah, David Tepper is an owner. Oh, so like we almost feel bad. We're going to add an extra $1 million to your salary just to help soothe that wound.
Yeah, it's true.
Madcraft, he's a Miami fan, hardcore Miami fan. He says the thing that bugs him most about his head coach is that he was unaware of the existence of the victory formation.
Oh
man,
that's a tough one. He also says, Jim Harbaugh squints his eyes like Jameis Winston did. Pisses me off.
You know what they need to do, Madcraft? Have you ever seen My Cousin Vinny, the movie?
I have not.
You never seen My Cousin? Oh, it's an all-time
no,
great, man. It's
no,
an all-time.
no.
First of all,
I'm sorry.
Marissa Tomei.
Oh,
Marissa Tomei and My Cousin Vinny in that like flowery full body suit. Oh, be still my heart.
Never seen it.
Marissa Tomei. However, Cole, there's a scene where it's a trial movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Two young boys are on trial for murder. I'll try not to give away the plot here, but or the ending. They're on trial for murder, and there's an eyewitness who said they had a visual identification of the two defendants that they were there and they committed the crime.
Okay.
And in the testing of her vision, in the cross-examination of this woman, they test her vision, and they have her hang on to the I guess the female end of one of those big rolling tape measures that you can pull out and it'll go like 50 feet.
Yeah.
And he walks all the way across the room and asks, how many fingers am I holding up? Feels like that's what they need to do with Jim Harbaugh.
Oh God.
Right. They need and then when it turns out she didn't know how many fingers he was holding up, they were like, maybe you need to get some thicker glasses.
Same thing there.
Yeah, same thing there. That's what needs to happen with Jim Harbaugh.
Come on, Mad, with Madcraft.
Like, but that's the biggest thing. If that's the biggest thing you got against Jim Harbaugh, you're doing okay.
Oh, he's a Chargers fan, so that's why he said that. You're right. It is. Texter says when Matt LaFleur strays away from the running game too early in a game, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. I hate that sound.
Two Utes, says Madcraft. Two what? It's a great movie. It's a great. How have you not ever seen that movie?
You know I'm not a movie buff.
As somebody with a I hope I'm not being mean by saying this, Cole. Thick Southern accent.
No,
the
it's
way
not
you
mean.
have.
Yeah.
You would love that movie because
I'll watch it then.
One of the main characters has a thick Southern accent.
I'll put it on my list.
It comes up multiple times in fun comedic ways.
What's yours?
My favorite team is my App State Mountaineers, my alma mater, right? I'll do the same way you did. I'll do with the compliment Oreo, right? Compliment on the front, compliment on the back.
Wait a minute. You have compliments about App State's coach?
I do.
Wow.
I know that Sean loves the program.
I didn't know that.
That's compliment number one. I know he loves the program. But in press conferences, he seems lost. Like he doesn't know how to be a dog. He doesn't know how to fight as a head coach. The dude is in over his head. And in press conferences specifically, you can tell. Like you can very much tell he's in over his head.
What?
So,
like just not there, or
he has this look. He has a kind of a it's sort of in a not exactly the way Shane Beamer does.
Yeah.
Like where Shane Beamer kind of looks shell-shocked after a loss.
Okay.
Sean Clark looks like he's on the edge of tears.
Okay.
Like he looks kind of like a cartoon baby. When a cartoon baby's about to cry and you can see it, like the emotion welling up. And then you can tell it hurts him to lose games at his alma mater. But that's not what this team needs. They need a fighter. They need a fighter, not a pansy.
But then again, like you said, if that's the worst thing he does, I thought you were going to say something about the on the field.
Well, he's losing a lot of football games. That's the worst thing he does, right?
Yeah.
That's the worst thing he does. And he loses a lot of football games. and we talked about this with Shane Beamer earlier this week.
Yeah.
How many times do you get to say, well, all those failures, they all fall on the head coach before an athletic director finally says, you know what? You're right. Your ass is out of here.
Ooh, is that where you are with him?
I'm there.
God.
I'm there. I am there. I didn't like the hire in the first place. I like the guy.
Yeah.
I like the guy a lot, but I hated the hire. I hated because Eli Drinkwitz, as much as I hate him now after he left, he was a dog.
How long was he there for? That long?
One season.
I was going to say, I was going to guess two. I didn't think
one season.
Yeah.
Came over from I don't know if he was OC at NC State. I think he was OC at NC State. Came to App State for 1 year.
And Sean Clark, by the way, has been there how many years?
4.
What's it say?
This is his 4th season.
I mean, like, I guess you want
what App State wanted was they wanted their next Jerry Moore. Jerry Moore was head coach at App State for like 30 years.
And that's what I was going to ask you.
And they wanted a guy who loved the program, who was never going to leave, even if Big 12 schools came along, like West Virginia. They hired Neil Brown out of Troy. Cincinnati hired Scott Satterfield away from App State. They wanted a coach who loved the program so much that he was going to be willing to forego Power 5 money, if successful, for a couple of more seasons because he loved his alma mater so much.
So as an App State grad, though, do you want a coach like Eli Drinkwitz who has bigger goals, or do you want a coach who views App State as a destination job?
I want the coach with bigger goals.
So even though he's not going to be there long,
nobody's going to be there for long. I mean, you're not going to
Sean
find.
Clark,
yeah, well,
I mean,
you're not going to find. This is modern college football, right? Everybody's trying to move up, right? Everybody's always trying to climb that ladder.
For sure.
And if you're at Georgia Southern, if you're at Tulane, and you find success, you're going to get hired away, right? You're going to get hired by a bigger job. Usually, you're not going to keep if you're elite enough, you're not going to keep a head coach for more than 3 seasons tops.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then he's off for a big time payday. I understand that. You know what that also means? It also means you are now known as a stepping stone job. You're known as the place you go. If you're an up and coming aspiring head coach, you go there, and if you win, you're going to get a Power 5 job. So let's move down the road here to Clemson, Cole.
Okay.
You're a Clemson fan.
Mm-hmm.
What bugs you most about Dabo Swinney?
There are several things that bug me. I guess the number one thing is maybe his inability to cope with the new landscape, right? I mean, that's the easy answer, isn't it? I mean, that's the easy answer, but the right answer. For me, it's just like, I don't know if it's a pridefulness or what it is, but I don't need the portal. I don't need NIL. And I've said it a million times. I'm not asking Dabo to go out and use the portal to create his entire roster. I'm just saying I would like Dabo. The biggest thing for me is I would like for him to be a little more open-minded with the portal and trying to acquire some guys, because let's be honest, Vanderbilt doesn't beat Alabama on Saturday without the transfer portal, right? Especially at the most important position on the field at quarterback. So it matters. I'm not saying you can't recruit well, but that's my biggest bugaboo.
Yeah, to me, it's the stubbornness that very often borders on arrogance.
Yeah.
And it's the arrogance that falls back onto stubbornness at times. We've seen it many times. How many times have you watched a Dabo Swinney press conference and heard him kind of like, or watched him kind of like sneer at the person who's asking the question? You know, it's like,
I don't know.
Sort of the like, who do you think you are asking me this? I'm Dabo Swinney. I know everything.
Well, see, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's an arrogance is more. I do agree with you on the stubbornness. I think it's a stubbornness of, I've done it my way. I think I can continue to win that way. Is that the right thing to do? Is that the right way to be? No. Again, I'm going to be a little more biased because I pull for him, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it's just a stubbornness that may come from pridefulness. I don't know, but it certainly does. It certainly does bug me a little bit.
Okay, and down the road, Shane Beamer, to me, it's his constant shell-shocked demeanor after a big loss. You know, we saw it, and hey, frustration bears its head in different ways with different people. Shane Beamer, I always see this like sort of 1,000-yard stare, shell-shocked nature after big losses. It's like it takes him a while to emotionally process what he's just been through. And I understand that coaching football is an emotional thing.
And he's an emotional guy.
And losing games is an emotional thing when you put an entire week's worth of work into it. But he always gets that shell-shocked look. Like somebody asks him a question, it's almost like you snap him out of it. What?
Yeah. No, I think that's valid. I think with him, if I'm a Gamecock fan, my biggest bugaboo is, look, cut ties, get rid of your buddies, get rid of your friends. Let's go hire the best guys out there. You know, let's go hire the best of the best. Let's throw it at them, back up the truck, and let's go get the best guys out there. Diesel, a college football storyline that no one's talking about. I'm going to bring it to you. We're going to talk about it to end the show next. Diesel, the biggest college football storyline that no one's talking about, at least that I haven't heard. I've got it for you. Are you ready? Kids? Sorry, SpongeBob. Are you ready for the biggest storyline in college football that you have not heard about? Well, here it is. It relates to Army-Navy. I have my notes here because I don't want to, get it messed up. This is wild. This is crazy, but this could happen. All right. College football fans, hear me out. Diesel, hear me out. The craziest college football storyline that's not being discussed is Army-Navy playing for the conference championship a week before they play each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Army-Navy both in the American Athletic Conference, and then there is the Army-Navy game.
So they're both in the American. Mm-hmm. If they were to both beat Notre Dame, it's a tall ask. It's a very tall ask. Probably won't happen, but it could. If they were to both beat Notre Dame during the regular season, they'd both be 12-0, and the American title game is scheduled a week before the Army-Navy game. The winner of that game would be headed to the college football playoff, while the very next week you have Army-Navy, and then all of a sudden the question is, do you play your starters in a meaningless Army-Navy game? Because you'd be headed for the playoff.
So, all right, that sparks an interesting scenario.
Yeah.
And not that anybody wants to forego revenue, but to have these two teams play each other back to back, I wonder, Cole, if there is a scenario or a if-then, situation where one of those two games would effectively be canceled.
Would they?
And the conference championship game acts as the Army-Navy game?
Oh, my God. That'd be great.
Or does the Army-Navy game act as the conference championship?
That's what I'm saying. Do you play them back to back?
That's a bad look. And I
you
know,
can't,
I know so many of these scenarios have been brought up. What happens if you play somebody late in the season and then you two are the best two teams in the conference so that you play each other again, and then you could potentially play each other again in the playoff after that.
You could.
I mean, I'm thinking down the stretch, what if Georgia, Texas, which is going to be a regular season game, gets played again as the conference championship game in the SEC, and then gets played again in the playoffs, assuming both teams make it, far enough to do so.
Right.
God, that's bad. That would be really bad look.
So what do you do if it were to happen? Do you because there's no way in my mind, there's no way you can play that game twice back-to-back weeks, is there?
No, I think I would hope that the American Athletic Conference would bow to tradition of Army-Navy.
I like
and
it.
have Army-Navy, the traditional weekend when Army-Navy plays. Because isn't that on Thanksgiving weekend? I'm trying to remember when it is.
It's around that time, yeah.
I would hope that they would defer to the tradition of the Army-Navy game. Now, is there a scheduling, to your knowledge, is there a scheduling contingency or rule that Army-Navy will not play each other in the regular season so that the only matchup they could play now that they're in the same conference would be the Army-Navy game afterwards?
Not that I know of.
Sort of like a permanent bowl matchup.
Right. And DB says it's the weekend after.
Okay.
Weekend after Thanksgiving. I knew it was right there. I just think, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they're both going to beat Notre Dame.
But what if?
What if they did?
All we got to do playoff application.
Let's see who Notre Dame plays first, because all that has to happen is one, right? If one happens, then we're that much closer to having the conversation. Oh man, all that has to happen is one more. And I don't think it's going to happen. Let's see who Notre Dame plays first. Notre Dame plays both Army and Navy. Okay, they've got Navy first, Diesel, in 2 weeks from now, and then they play Army in November. I'm just telling you, man, it'd be the craziest.
So why specifically does Notre Dame have to be the linchpin for this situation?
Because if they lose, right? If one of them loses to Notre Dame,
what if both lose?
Well,
it's not none of these are conference games, so it shouldn't matter, right?
I think it's based on.
I mean, it may say that there's no playoff implications, but I get what you're saying. The most juice that could be on this game is if both beat Notre Dame, they play each other for playoff access.
Now, Notre Dame not being that American game, I wonder how that affects. That's interesting. Obviously, as you said, the stakes would be higher, but I'm pulling for this to happen. I really am. I really want this to happen.
In the first year of Army playing in the AAC, that would be great. Air Force, quit messing around. Jump into the AAC. Get out of the Mountain West. Stop with this. Put all the surface academies under one conference.
Let's do it.
Please. And why not? Let's put VMI and Citadel in there while we're at it. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Appreciate you Tolos who have jumped into the conversation all day. We'll be back to do it again tomorrow for show number 138.